so sorry.
Take care of the most. Oh, that's bad. I'm on. There you go.
Let's go, boy. Real easy.
Bro, I was sniping that nigga, bro. Alright, Mike, I see your ass, Mike. Mike was shooting for them too.
What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and today what I have for you guys is my official Treyarch Zombies tribute, the video you've all been waiting for, and the video that I've been talking about for quite a while now. Yes, this is about a year and a half in the making, and the reason it was so long is because the release of Zombies Chronicles, the remastered versions of Ascension, Shangri-La, Moon, Origins, maps that have wonderful Easter eggs that I wanted to re-record in 1080p, 60 frames per second on current gen platforms. But as you can see, before I even jump into the gameplay, this is my new little setup here in my room. I have the official Call of Duty Zombies timeline, some other Zombies merchandise, Coca-Cola caps, Monkey Bomb posters, some really cool shit that I've been collecting for quite a while and now got a chance to put together to make the ultimate setup. But as I said, this video is something that I've been thinking about, I would say right before Revelations came out. I knew Revelations was going to be this compilation of all the zombie maps we had up to date, or just about all of them, so I figured why not go back, record some thorough gameplay of every Easter egg in every Treyarch Zombies map, and put it together in one big video, talk about each of the Easter eggs, the storyline progression, and go on from there. I feel like this is a great way to end off my Black Ops 3 coverage here on my channel. It's been almost 2 full years now since Black Ops 3 released, and I have to say it's been an honor recording, editing, and uploading some very phenomenal gameplay from a game that I just didn't think would ever be as successful as it was. You know, we all saw how successful Black Ops 1 was, and even Black Ops 2, but the third game in the trilogy, Black Ops 3, ended up being what I would consider the most successful in terms of its sales, DLC content, microtransactions, little updates, new game modes, you name it. It's been a blast, and I'm really excited to be uploading this video for you guys as we await the official release of Call of Duty World War II, which is where my channel is going this year. But without further ado, let's jump into my official Treyarch Zombies tribute.
Welcome to Ascension, a place full of uncanny challenges.
Now, starting off at number 1, we of course have Treyarch's very first Easter egg on a Zombies map. This is the Casimir mechanism Easter egg on Ascension, which is pretty fun to do. It's definitely not too difficult, and I've only done this about a handful of times, maybe 2 or 3 times on the original Black Ops 1 version, and about, let's say, 3 or 4 times on the Black Ops 3 version. This Easter egg, of course, consists of us helping Dr. Gersh in repairing the mechanism, freeing him because she is coming. Now, Gersh is obviously referring to Samantha Maxis, who at the time was in control of the zombies. Now, for this Easter egg, you of course need a Gersh device, 2 Porter's X2 ray guns, or 2 Porter's Mark II ray guns on the Black Ops 3 version, the Zeus cannon, aka the Thunder Gun, the Matryoshka dolls, and 4 players, of course. As I was saying, you cannot do this Easter egg without 4 players. It is impossible on solo unless you have some type of mod on the PC, of course. But once again, it's not too difficult to do. All you really have to do is throw a Gersh device outside the map at a piece of equipment, hold square on a computer, hold square with all 4 players simultaneously on these buttons that appear next to 4 Coca-Cola machines during a monkey round.
Our rerouted Casimir mechanism, node 2 activated.
Then you have to literally run in a circle with all 4 players, of course, for about, I would say, a minute and a half.
more ammo, or new weapon. Vision decision.
Their mechanism. Node 3 activated.
Fate shall be decided by the honorable.
And after that, you get to a very simple step, which is taking the lunar landers in a particular order to shoot some letters out of the sky to spell the word Luna.
Tower rerouted to Casimir mechanism. Node 4 activated. Full power achieved.
Casimir mechanism is active. How exciting! Joy!
And after that, the grand finale, which is to literally go crazy with all of your wonder weapons. Shoot everything at once with the Gersh device, with Matryoshka dolls, with everything you have, and that'll free Dr. Gersh. Now the reward for this Easter egg on the Black Ops 1 version only granted you with a 90-second death machine, but on the Black Ops 3 version, not only do you get a 90-second death machine, you also get every perk on the map, which is pretty cool if you're going for high rounds, but once again, you can just pop a perkaholic if you wanted all the perks. The one thing I want to say is that hopefully for Treyarch's next Call of Duty game, they don't really aim towards giving you every single perk at the end of an Easter egg, or if they do that, don't leave that as the only reward, because you can easily replace that with a perkaholic Gobblegum. That's of course if Gobblegums return in their next Call of Duty game. But I thought it was funny because when Zombies Chronicles released, I remember reading on some pretty cool threads on Reddit. They were talking about the original myths that used to come out of the Ascension Easter egg, talking about how there was continuation beyond the 90-second death machine. Another part of the map opens, you can take the lunar landers somewhere else, you can shoot something with the death machine that enables something else. Little myths like that that originally came out when people beat the Ascension Easter egg. People thought that there was more. There isn't an achievement for this Easter egg, and I was really disappointed to see that Treyarch didn't introduce one with the Zombies Chronicle version of Ascension. I just thought that would be a perfect opportunity to kind of fix and tweak up the little things that were sort of a downfall with the original Ascension Easter egg. But as Jason Blundell himself had said, he wants to keep the maps as true to the originals as they can. Now, one more thing I wanted to bring up is that within this video, I'm not going to include footage of every single Easter egg step of every single main quest. I just feel like that would be way too long of a video, so I just included some of the core steps of every main quest across every Treyarch Zombies map.
Call of the Dead.
Now, coming in at number 2, we actually have an Easter egg that has two names, a co-op version and a solo version. We have the co-op version titled Original Characters Trap.
I want this set swimming.
You guys get your thing okay?
Kinda sick that I have to ask this, but Richtofen, is that a rotten pocket?
9. Let's go. I've got us what we need.
Yeah, drunk.
Thank you so much for your help out there. Bye-bye!
And then it fails.
Hey, what up? Should I get out and push?
The fuse box must have shorted out. I'm dead.
Oh, come on. This better be more rewarding than last time. Stupid Gersh. What the?
That's it. I'm done. You guys gonna help us out now?
Thank you again, stranger. Perhaps we will see you another time. Goodbye.
Yo, sauerkraut. Never did tell us why we came. Wherever this is.
All in good time, my clever Denji. All in good time. Oh, that's what you get for eating.
George is in here. They did it.
And we have the solo version titled Stand-In of the Call of the Dead main quest. This is a beautiful map that I always used to enjoy on the PS3. And the Easter egg was always pretty difficult on co-op, but on the solo version, it requires a couple of easier steps which aren't as time consuming as the co-op version. And first and foremost, special thanks to Grizz Zombies, who actually sent me this Call of the Dead footage when he completed the Call of the Dead Easter egg with the man himself, Greg FPS. I actually had Call of the Dead footage on my computer, but unfortunately the footage got corrupted when I actually got the achievement. But here is Grizombies getting the achievement on the Xbox 360 as he successfully sent the original 4 characters to Paradise, and as he of course gave Dr. Richtofen the Golden Rod. Now the Easter egg quest on this map does of course require you to have the VR11 Wonder Weapon, which is considered one of the worst Wonder Weapons of all time, especially on higher rounds, but does play a pretty cool role in the final step of this main Easter egg, as you have to shoot a zombie with it. Once he transforms back into a human, he'll then run up into the lighthouse and he'll begin floating all the way up to the top. You have to kill him as he's floating, and boom, you'll be awarded the Golden Rod. You can then take the Golden Rod to the original 4 characters who are trapped behind a wall, and once you give Richtofen the Golden Rod, he'll then reward you with the Wonder Waffle Wonder Weapon, which works phenomenal here on this map. I just wish that on the original version you'd also get all the perks, but who knows, maybe one day if the map gets remastered you'll be given all the perks as well. Now I also wanted to say that it's very unfortunate to talk about the passing of George Romero, who was actually the boss on this map. He died, I believe it was 2 months ago. It was very unfortunate. Treyarch actually paid tribute to him by talking about it on their Twitter, and many other Call of Duty YouTubers did as well. It would be interesting to see a Call of Dead remake as a fan service to also honor the wonderful director that was George Romero. Now I would definitely say it's worth doing this Easter egg if you really enjoy the map and enjoy the celebrity characters we have on this map. I think it's just legendary to do, very important for the storyline to understand how Richtofen got the Golden Rod and what his purpose was for it. I think it's a really cool little main quest that Treyarch also was sort of experimenting with here on a map like this. You know, Treyarch wasn't full-fledged into making main quests and Easter eggs as of this point yet. It was just their second time doing it, and I would say by the time Moon came around is when they really thought about the entire process overall and how to continue it for future games to come.
This is weird.
Getting frostbite was so not on my list of things to do today.
I can still move. I'm frozen. George broke me out of it. Okay, I'm down.
Now, coming in at number 3, we of course have Time Travel Will Tell, which is the main Easter egg quest on Shangri-La, another map that got remastered with the Zombies Chronicles map pack. Now, not only does this map look beautiful and sound beautiful, but it has a pretty interesting story behind it. I think it's definitely one of the hardest maps on Black Ops 1 Zombies, as it was pretty hard to get the high rounds, especially with the weapons we had back in that day and age. It's definitely 100% easier to get the high rounds and to even do the Easter egg on the Black Ops 3 version of the map. Now, in terms of the requirements of this Easter egg, you definitely need 4 players. You cannot do this Easter egg on solo, just like Ascension. You could probably do it on solo if you had mods on the PC, but that's about it. You of course need a napalm zombie, which only appears every couple of rounds. You need spike moors on the Black Ops 1 versions, but the trip mines on the Black Ops 3 version. And you of course need zombies to trigger them, aka walk past these spike moors or trip mines. You then need an explosive weapon of some sort, the ray gun does count, and you need a pack-a-punch version of the fractalizer, aka the baby maker, on this map. It does not need to be upgraded in the earlier step where it is used, but it has to be upgraded by the end of the Easter egg when you're about to acquire the focusing stone. So yes, we acquired the Golden Rod on Call of the Dead, gave it to Dr. Richtofen, sent them to Paradise, and now here is Paradise, Shangri-La, where Richtofen is now aiming to acquire the focusing stone, which will later be placed inside of the Golden Rod itself. So in terms of an explanation for the Easter egg on this map, which I really wanted to talk about, it is about 2 explorers, Brock and Gary. So yes, the Easter egg requires us to help 2 explorers stuck in a time loop. Now, also remember, the player does not need to get the focusing stone as long as it is picked up by at least 1 other player. Picking up the focusing stone will then grant everybody with the achievement Now, the player who grabs the focusing stone will be granted with all the perks on that map. Now, the funny thing about this map is that you could actually complete this Easter egg more than once in the same game. Everybody wants to have all the perks for picking up the focusing stone. Now, in Black Ops 3, a little redundant to do that when all you have to do is pop a perkaholic, but this is of course for people who remember this map on the Black Ops 1 version. So in terms of the explanation, Brock and Gary, two explorers, were looking for the temple to prove the existence of Agartha. They accidentally triggered the eclipse on this map and the zombies attacked them. Gary died first and Brock followed later. The players change their fate by completing the steps of the puzzle on this map, which sends them back to the future for every successfully completed step. When they finally reach the focusing stone, they travel back in time again, and it becomes apparent to the players that they've been returned to the exact moment they discovered the temple itself, meaning they're stuck in a never-ending loop. So I would say this map introduces the beginning of this idea of time travel, different timelines, different universes, and just time loops that never end. And this is a topic that didn't get touched on too much in Black Ops 2, aside from Out of the Dead, of course. But once we hit the Origins era and Black Ops 3, Shadows of Evil, and we got closer to Revelations is when we started to see that this time loop theory and its entire time loop storyline is becoming pretty common across almost every set of characters that we have. And hopefully in Treyarch's next game, they touch more on how to close every loop, because we all know that the point of Revelations is to close all the loops in the universe. But now we have another loop, which is of course Monty sending Primus back in time and starting the loop all over again. So hopefully in the next game we can break that cycle and see where that leads us. But as I was saying, the Easter egg on this map is fairly difficult, and you need 4 players who really know what they're doing, because the steps on this map are not easy as cake as they were on Ascension or maybe even on Call of the Dead. Now I would say the most time consuming step in this Easter egg is getting the napalm zombie to spawn in and correctly go into the tunnel so that you can finish that step for you. If you're playing with a group of some really bad players who don't know what they're doing or just don't understand what they have to do, then you're gonna end up having to wait about, let's say, 4 to 6 more rounds for another napalm zombie to spawn. What I usually do is have the 3 other players take whatever crawlers or zombies to the other side of the map, while I specifically draw the napalm zombie into the tunnel so that you can finish the step for us. Again, if you have players that don't know what they're doing, they're gonna end up getting too close to the napalm zombie, causing him to explode. They're gonna end up shooting him, panicking, who knows what. But this Easter egg requires a lot of concentration, a lot of organization with the team, and definitely a lot of focus. You cannot do this Easter egg while you're uneducated about what exactly you have to do, because in my opinion, just as the map is taking place during a time loop, your time is pretty limited in terms of what you have to do on what specific round. You have to be quick about everything you do, or else you have too many zombies spawning in, leading you to, of course, die and restart all the way from the beginning. Now, after all the puzzles, matching all the symbols, getting your trip mines filled into the holes within those tunnels, you can then shrink the focusing stone, which is huge, right above the temple. You'll shrink it, and you can then go back up the steps and acquire the focusing stone.
Kaboom. Get a stick of dynamite, I could get us in there.
Well, unless you brought some, I think we're not getting any further.
I had some in my bag. Dropped it when we were attacked by the horde of zombies.
Dynamite! I find your dynamite!
Okay, you bring me that stick of dynamite, I'll open this bitch up like a can of beans. Then can you get me all out here?
Of course! I just need to see the inside of the temple.
Alright, here we go. Everybody get back!
You have paid for your sins! Stupid monkey.
Double points!
I don't care about points! Only death!
So again, one player has to grab it for everybody else to get the achievement, but if you're like, fuck, I don't have a perkaholic, and you can get all your perks getting the focusing stone, then you can actually repeat all the Easter egg steps all over again, as this map takes place in a time loop, so you can endlessly complete this map's Easter egg, which is pretty cool, and it's the first time that a lot of game developers messed with a big quest like this in their game, where you can do it multiple times on and on and on to get the same reward for every player. It's pretty cool, but again, in the Black Ops 3 version, you don't need to keep doing this over and over again if you want all your perks. You could, of course, just pop a perkaholic. But in terms of storyline progression, Dr. Richtofen has exactly what he needs to take over the ether in the map Moon.
I have been blessed by my honor!
You'll have to give that back to me when you're done.
We're working round the clock to make sure everyone can hold their own against the zombie onslaught. Because you're not truly alive until you're out killing the undead.
Now, coming in at number 4, we of course have Richtofen's grand scheme here on the map Moon, which consists of 2 parts. The first part is Cryogenic Slumber Party, and the second part is a super Easter egg on Black Ops 1 Zombies known as the Big Bang Theory. So let's jump right into it. First off, as I said in Shangri-La, Richtofen now has everything he needs. With the golden rod and the focusing stone put together, he can place both of these into the pyramid, revealing Samantha Maxis, and now getting the ability to switch souls with her so that he can now control the zombies and have the ultimate power of the Dark Ether. So with Cryogenic Slumber Party, you of course need the QEDs, the Wave Gun Wonder Weapon, which is phenomenal, and the Hacker, along with a Gerst device. So these required weapons do not have to be obtained at one time and could be used individually, but when it comes to this map, you could actually do this Easter egg on solo. With a catch, you're going to have to get QEDs, trade them for Gerst devices, and then trade them for QEDs once again. It's going to be a little bit of a hassle to do that on solo. On co-op, you'll obviously have one player with the QEDs, one player with the Gerst devices, and another player with the Hacker to get all the steps done simultaneously. On Black Ops 3, it's obviously a lot easier to do that, as you'll have unlimited fire sales with the Gobblegums to get everything you need. As with Black Ops 1, you of course need to keep hitting the box, saving up money, hitting the box, and you name it. Now, when it comes to the achievements on this map, this is very interesting, and it's because at the time of Black Ops 1 Zombies, Microsoft had a deal with Activision to allow Xbox 360 to get map packs 30 days early. So, with that being said, there was a trophy and achievement for Cryogenic Slumber Party, but unfortunately, the Big Bang Theory side of this Easter egg only had an achievement for the Xbox 360. PlayStation 3 never had a trophy for the Big Bang Theory, and I was hoping that with Zombies Chronicles, they'd make a Big Bang Theory trophy for PS4 so that you can finally be rewarded with something for doing the super Easter egg on this map. Now, the reason they call it a super Easter egg is because back in the Black Ops 1 days, you had to do the Call of Duty Easter egg to acquire the Golden Rod and the Shangri-La Easter egg to acquire the Focusing Stone, so that you can put those two together and allow Richtofen to overcharge the ether, in which he can then take control of all the zombies, which in turn pisses off Dr. Maxis here on this map. So I believe this is the first map where we actually heard the voice of Dr. Maxis ever since, I want to say, the Reese, or in the World at War days when we used to find those hidden radios explaining the storyline with Dr. Maxis and Dr. Richtofen. So again, after doing the super Easter egg here on Moon, completing all the steps, Dr. Maxis gets pissed off that Richtofen is now in control, and as a failsafe, he then launches 3 rockets directly at Earth in hopes of hopefully destroying the Earth, which will destroy the zombies virus. Now with doing that, he actually makes shit worse, and that's where Black Ops 2 falls into place with maps like Tranzit, Die Rise, and Buried. You can always say that those 3 missiles represent each of those 3 maps that were featured in Black Ops 2 with the Tranzit crew. So again, this map is just beautiful in every way. The gameplay is super fun, never gets old. You can really get to high rounds even easier now with the mechanics of Black Ops 3.
Teddy. Password is a liar. I'm not, but that might no one would guess it.
Greetings, Edward. Would you like to play a game?
What is it that gross obsession with American women?
Fire sale!
Do is play games! No matter. Time to charge up the Casimir mechanism. Carry the one.
Access granted. Switching relay to sector 115.
Access denied.
What is happening? Scanning for hacksaws.
I should never have trusted you.
Maxis, how on earth did you get into the machine?
Fire sale!
No matter.
I know what you are up to, and I will not allow you to succeed.
You should never have kept the DJ tool from production. You should never have tried to steal the plan for the MTD.
Stop the madness, Edward. We were supposed to help the human condition, not destroy it.
Indeed. And now you are dead. And your little girl is going to be next. She is the source of madness, not I.
Kaboom.
She is just a little girl, Edward. She doesn't even know what she's doing.
Und delete. Goodbye, Dr. Maxis.
Security override active.
And the Easter egg, of course, visually looks so much better on current gen platforms. When you blow up the Earth, when you open the pyramid to reveal Samantha, shooting against the Nova Crawlers, and jumping on the pads in the Biodome, it's super fun. The only thing I would say is that the Easter egg could be a pain in the fucking ass when the excavator pie doesn't want to breach Tunnel 6. Now, this can obviously lead you guys to have to restart the game and try it all over again to see if RNG is on your side to the point where excavator pie breaches Tunnel 6, so that you can then unlock the little sphere that would be placed into the pyramid. That's an entire Easter egg step that relies solely on RNG. So again, it was a pain in the ass back on the Black Ops 1 version. You can imagine how much of a pain in the ass it is on the Black Ops 3 version. So again, RNG plays a role in just about every Treyarch Zombies Easter egg, but as long as you enjoy the map and you're willing to keep trying again over and over again with your teammates, then you'll eventually get this Easter egg done. But I would say it's almost a huge relief, and the fact that you know you're going to beat the Easter egg after excavator pie breaches Tunnel 6. But
this is going to be so much fun. Finally, we can confront this threat. Quickly, power up the machine.
Insta-kill!
Now, the reward for completing this Easter egg is actually very interesting. So for Cryogenic Slumber Party, you of course get the achievement/trophy, and you'll be awarded with a 90-second death machine. Now, the player who is actually playing as Richtofen during that match will also receive all the perks for successfully switching souls with Samantha Maxis. Now, after the Big Bang Theory part of this Easter egg is when every player on the map will receive every single perk. But again, within Black Ops 3, it's a little redundant since you of course have the Perkaholic Gobblegum to take that place, and we of course know that you'll then hear the voice of Samantha Maxis with the player who's playing as Richtofen on that match as well. Along with that, you'll also have blue-eyed zombies for the remainder of that match, which is visually very cool, and of course leads right into Black Ops 2. I personally consider this a magnificent ending to Black Ops 1 Zombies, both visually and storyline wise, but
Yeah! It's time to die, child!
Daddy! Make him stop!
I get controls and I can destroy
Before we continue the game.
Greetings. If you are receiving this message, it means that Richtofen has entered the device. If you free me, I will help you minimize the damage that he will inevitably cause.
Some people would say that this is where Stilinski put developers and the storyline altogether in a hole, because there wasn't really that much to cover with Black Ops 2 Zombies. How far could you go with the storyline? How much more could you possibly do? That was the big question when Black Ops 2 came out. And I would say this is where Jason Blundell came in, took Stilinski's place, and sort of fixed what was wrong with the plot holes of the zombie storyline, with the dull areas of the zombie storyline, and he expanded on something that Stilinski kind of started with Black Ops 1, with Shangri-La and Moon, that maybe might not have been expanded upon within Black Ops 2 or even Black Ops 3 if Stilinski had kept his place. But Blundell looked at the Vrilya storyline, the ancient evil aspect of zombies, and really expanded on that to eventually create the Apothecon / Keeper storyline that then proceeded into Black Ops 3, allowed us to get introduced to characters like the Shadow Man and Dr. Monty, so on and so forth. So again, people talk about how Blundell sort of rebooted zombies, changed everything, deleted everything else. Nope, he took what Stilinski already had, made it better, and allowed for expansion, for sequels, for spin-offs, for massive Easter egg quests, as we saw within Black Ops 3.
Good. Now that I am in control of the station, we have one last chance to sever Everett's link with Earth. I will calculate the position. Retrieve the artifact and take it to the launch platform. I have finished the calculations. Launch protocol initiated. Launch in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just what the doctor ordered. No, not you, Richtofen.
So that is the end of Black Ops 1 Zombies, the super Easter egg on Moon, in which Maxis blows up the Earth, which then creates Tranzit, Die Rise, and Barry. So without further ado, let's jump right into Black Ops 2.
Fetch me their
Now, coming in at number 5, we have the map, the myth, and the legend itself, which is Tranzit, the launch map of Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Now, before I even jump into the Easter egg, let me just remind you guys that Jason Blundell himself clarified on Zombros something that we all already knew, which is the idea that Tranzit is an unfinished map. Treyarch intended Tranzit to be this massive project with so much replayability, so many game modes, a massive cross-map Easter egg that would have players going back to Tranzit even after the release of DLC 3, you name it. But unfortunately, due to time constraints, due to Activision's sorry ass placing Treyarch under a 2-year development cycle to make Black Ops 2, they just didn't have time to finish what they already started. On top of that, you have hardware limitations, which meant that a massive map like Tranzit just wouldn't run well on the older gen platforms, which is why Tranzit desperately needs a remaster on Treyarch's next game, or even the game after that. Just imagine a fully finished Tranzit map with a variety of game modes, a variety of cross-map Easter eggs on a current-gen PC, or a current-gen PS4 Pro, or an Xbox Scorpio. Just imagine that. The map would run so much more smoothly, and I just can't even imagine how much better it would be. But here we have it, the launch map, which is Tranzit here on Black Ops 2. So I'll read the official description of the Tower of Babble achievement, which you can get in 2 different ways. Both of them must be done in the original difficulty setting. One way is by listening to Dr. Maxis, and can be done only when the power on the map is turned off. The other way is by listening to Richtofen while the power is turned on. However, the only character that can hear Richtofen's side of the Easter egg is Samuel, and does not work if Samuel is not in the game. This method does not require the nav table to be built, as has been completed without it. But the jet gun must be built in order to complete the Richtofen side of this Easter egg. Once a player has completed one side of the Easter egg, it will count as having been completed for that side in all subsequent playthroughs. In order to do one side of the Easter egg a second time, the player will need to have completed the other side first, which will in turn lock that side, or have activated the endgame on Buried, which will unlock the Easter egg so that either side may be completed again. Alternatively, the player may join a game in progress so long as none of the players that started the game have the desired side locked. The canon ending, and this is important, the canon ending is confirmed to be Maxis' side of the quest in the official Zombies timeline, which Treyarch released along with Zombies Chronicles last year. So this is huge. I'll of course be showing gameplay of both sides for Tranzit, Die Rising Buried, but here, as we have with Tranzit, the Maxis side, which is not too difficult, but the biggest part of this Easter egg, which can be a pain in the ass, is getting EMPs from the box. The RNG in Black Ops 2 is complete shit, and compared to Black Ops 3, will really get you frustrated. There could be games when you get the EMPs after your 3rd or 4th box hit, maybe spending about a couple grand. There could be other games when you hit the box about 100 times, spend almost 20 grand, and still don't get it. So with the Maxis side, you have to have the power off, which means no perks. So with that being said, you're going to want to get this Easter egg done as fast as you can. You don't have to build a jet gun for the Maxis side, but you need to build a turbine, which is very easy, as you've seen at the beginning of this match. After that, you just have to turn off the power and acquire EMPs from the box. Once that is done, you have to go into the cornfield and be reminded, you can have perks, like I said. You have to go into the cornfield underneath the pylon, and you have to run in circles with zombies, try to get a couple of crawlers, and wait for the Avogadro boss zombie to spawn. The way that I usually get him to spawn is by holding a crawler till the end of the round, and when the lightning strikes the top of the pylon tower, you can kill that crawler, which most of the time causes the Avogadro to spawn. I do consider that a myth with Black Ops 2 zombies, but it has worked for me in the past, so...
Not enough power! Bring additional energy!
Portable wind turbine, huh? Useful.
I'll just give that a try and see if it works for you guys. But yes, once the Avogadro spawns, you have to bring him to the center of the pylon, place your turbines, throw an EMP at him, which boom, will destroy him for the time being, and that'll complete one step of the Maxis Easter egg. So also be reminded, you can complete this Easter egg with 2 to 4 players.
Yes,
Let's just wander around until we're all dead. What happened there?
People say, oh, you have to have 4, you have to have 4. I've done it with one other person and boom, it worked. As long as you have 2 or more people, it will work. The amount of people in the game represents how many turbines you have to have placed underneath the tower when the Avogadro comes to the middle as you throw an EMP at him. Again, you will hear Maxis speak, and everybody can hear Maxis speak in the game. You will hear Maxis speak when the Avogadro has been defeated by your EMP and turbine. After that, all you have to do is go under a couple of different lampposts. It could be either of the 2, depending on how many people you have in your game. If you have 2 people in your game, then I would go under 2 different lampposts. If you have 3, go under 3 of them. There are 4 lampposts in Tranzit that have a green light that emits from the light bulb itself. So go under either one of those. If you're playing with one other person, go under 2 of those lampposts and simply place your turbine under them. So as you can see, me and my friend simply placed our turbines under 2 different lampposts which had a green light, and boom, that ends the Easter egg on Maxis' side. Again, there's only like 3 steps to this Easter egg, and it sounds very easy, but again, be reminded, when you don't have perks, it could be a pain in the ass when you get to a high round and you're still waiting for the Avogadro to spawn, which is why you have to have patience with this fucking Easter egg. You just have to. There's been games I've been in with 2 to 3 other people where we've done some of the steps. We've thrown the EMP at the Avogadro, had our turbines out, and Maxis just wouldn't speak, or if he did speak, it would essentially signify that we didn't complete the step correctly, and we would do the same thing the next game and it would work. So again, Tranzit is very glitchy. As I said, it's an unfinished map, so if you really want to beat this Easter egg, you have to be patient. But moving on to
Up goes the Weasel!
the Richtofen side. This one is also a bit of a pain in the ass because of the glitches, but at the same time, there's a reason why I always do the Maxis side of the Tranzit Easter eggs on Die, Rise, and Bury. And it's for the fact that only the person playing as Samuel can hear Richtofen, as I said earlier. So if you're playing with someone in the game, I don't even have to say this really, but you guys get the idea. If you're playing with someone in the game who is playing as Samuel, and they don't have a mic, or there's no way for you to communicate with them, you're most likely never going to know if you did a step correctly. Because there's times when you think you did it right, but nope, you didn't get the audio indication from Richtofen, so that means you have to redo the step again. So play with someone that you know is going to communicate with you about whether or not Richtofen spoke to Samuel, and just play it safe, have patience. If you're playing with only one other person, make sure that one of you is Samuel at the start of the game, or else Richtofen's side will not work. Again, it's a really cool storyline mechanic that only Samuel can hear Richtofen, but gameplay wise, it could be a huge pain in the ass. So you have to build a jet gun for the Richtofen side. You also have to get EMPs, which is another pain in the ass. You don't need turbines, but again, you still need EMPs. As I said earlier, the RNG in Black Ops 2 is horrible, so please be careful when you go for the box, and make sure you're not spinning it till around 30 and still don't have it, because even though you could have perks on the Richtofen side with the power on.
Excellent! Your skills are superb! Now get this thing to the obelisk! We must hurry, for Maxis is a fishy little beaver, and the dummy bird will kill you all! Trust me! What's the only place to get
This looks like it might be good for something.
We must rest the one that fly from the undead by killing them. Or why do you need a bunch of it? Get busy!
So, after building the jet gun, and I'll probably put the parts on screen so you can see where you can find them. After building the jet gun, you have to go underneath the pylon, simply shoot it. Shoot it all the way until it breaks. There's reasons why the jet gun is the worst wonder weapon of all time, but again, it breaks fairly easily, so luckily you can beat the step pretty fast. Go underneath the pylon, simply burn the shit out of the jet gun, spam your trigger finger until it breaks. Once it breaks, you should hear an audio indication from Richtofen that he needs more power. So after that, you just have to kill zombies here underneath the pylon with explosive weapons. The War Machine works, the Ray Gun works, Semtex grenades work, the Ray Gun Mark II works. Use explosive weapons. Get a fair amount of zombie kills, maybe 20 or more. There's never a for sure number, since there's been times when I killed 15 and it worked. There's been times when we killed 30 and it worked. So just kill a fair amount of zombies until you hear Richtofen speak again. And once he speaks again, all you have to do is then acquire EMPs from the box. And you have to throw EMPs under all 4 of the green lampposts. As I said earlier in the Max's side, there are 4 lampposts on this map that emit a green light. You have to throw an EMP under all 4 of them. So here's the trick: if you're playing with only one other person, make sure that both of you have EMPs. If both of you have EMPs, you can put turbines underneath each lamppost to create teleporters. The denizens, of course, create teleporters on this map underneath each lamppost. What I would do, and I've done this many times already so it works, create a teleporter underneath every single lamppost on this map. Now, to be clear, there could be times, and it's happened to me, where you have some super shitty luck to the point where you make teleporters on every single lamppost, you and your other friend throw EMPs at 2 different green lampposts, then jump into teleporters, and unfortunately end up in the same spot together. Which means you failed a step, because you're then not going to have enough time to each go your separate ways into 2 different green lampposts and throw your other EMPs. It's on a time limit. You have to do this quick. You have to throw an EMP at a lamppost, jump in a teleporter, hopefully end up at a different one with a green light, and throw your EMP again. Same for your other friend. If you both end up in the same spot, you just can't do it. So what you're going to have to do is wait for a max ammo so you both have 2 EMPs each, and try it again. Again, it's trial and error. It takes patience and it takes time. You're most likely not going to get this step done on your first try, but like I said, if you want to do the Tranzit Easter egg, if you want to just get it done for the sake of having the achievement or for the sake of helping a friend so that you guys can complete the buried endgame later on, then take your time with this Easter egg. Again,
soon this beautiful planet will be healed once more. Once the flesh will cover the earth. What a glorious day that will be for you. You will be the hero that has saved all of the earth for me to play with.
Building the jet gun can already be a pain in the ass. There's been times when we built the jet gun, it broke and the pieces just did not spawn in any of the locations they can respawn in. Again, if it breaks, usually the parts will respawn in their original locations or nearby where it broke. But sometimes it'll completely despawn from the game and you have to restart. If it breaks on the bus, usually the parts disappear and can never be found again. Shit like that will ruin your game and you're going to have to restart because there's no way to fix that. There is no patch or bug fix that ever resolve the jet gun issues. And that's just one issue with the jet gun. There's other issues with hearing Richtofen speak. Sometimes Samuel glitches out, you won't have any audio. There's been so many weird bugs on Tranzit that made me almost quit my game. But again, once completed, it's pretty cool to get a little achievement and see the tower lit up with either orange for Maxis or blue for Richtofen. But again, there's no real reward. You don't get all the perks, you don't get any extra money, you don't get a wonder weapon, you don't get an upgraded jet gun or anything like that. So I'm just curious to think how the reward could have turned out if the map was remastered or if the map was actually completed back then. What kind of reward would you have gotten? The Easter egg is fairly short, only 2 to 3 steps per side. Very, very easy. There's just a lot of bullshit steps about it that make you quit your fucking life sometimes. But other than that, that was Tranzit. Moving on to the second map in the Tranzit Trilogy, which is Die Rise. Now, coming in at number 6, we have the Great Leap Forward, also known as Die Rise, which features the High Maintenance Easter egg, which of course features branching Easter egg storylines just like Green Run, aka Tranzit. The Victus crew on this map needs to activate another polarization device like the one in Green Run. So, what I would say about this map is the Easter egg is very interesting, feels original in a couple of different ways, but definitely expands on the Easter egg Tranzit could have had. Like I said in the Tranzit section of this video, the Easter egg on that map felt a little underwhelming, as if there was almost no reward, or as if the steps were just too simple. The steps on both sides, Maxis and Richtofen, felt a little too similar, and even though you needed the jet gun for the Richtofen side, it still felt like you were almost doing the same thing, minus attacking the Avogadro. But here on high maintenance, some of the steps are a little different, and thank God for the Max's side, you don't need to have the power off, as you can then have all the perks while you do each of the steps. But what I would say is that the Max's side on Tranzit takes a little longer than the Richtofen side, because with Richtofen side, you're almost guaranteed success as long as you have the jet gun, as long as you use it correctly, and as long as you get EMPs. With the Max's side, you have to wait for the Avogadro, get EMPs out the box, you can't have any perks as the power's off. But, as I said, with Die Rise, the Max's and Richtofen side are somewhat similar, but at the same time, I would say the Max's side is a little more glitchier in terms of the ballistic knife step, which we'll be talking about in a couple of minutes. And on Buried, I would say both sides are, in a way, pretty equal. Both require a lot of time, and both can be pretty tricky, but we'll focus on that later. Now, as we get here on Die Rise, you of course have to turn on the power to begin the Easter egg, and just a quick note, you don't have to have the nav card table built to start the Easter egg, but you'll need it later in order to activate the endgame on Buried. Now for the second step, you of course need all 4 players to step on 4 golden rings on top of 4 elevators. So like I said, for some other Easter eggs needed 4 players like Shangri-La and Ascension, unless you have PC mods, then it's going to be impossible to do this on solo or with 2 or 3 people. You're going to need 4 people. So these locations on the elevators do change from game to game. So the 4 players in the match have to of course locate the 4 golden circles on top of 4 separate elevators. You have to stand on them at the same time, so again, you're going to need players who want to communicate, who want to get the Easter egg done, and who put in the effort to let you know where they're at, what time they're going to stand on the elevator, and if whether or not they have to stand off the elevator so they don't get crushed after, I believe it's like 30 seconds when you're standing on it. It'll go all the way up to the top and kill you till the next round. So again, this Easter egg is pretty fun, and as I said before, I'm not going to include footage of every single step of every single main quest, but I'll include some of the main steps of each Easter egg on all the Treyarch zombie maps. This isn't my favorite map in Black Ops 2 Zombies, but if you have patience, if you like a map like this where you have to wait for elevators, communicate with your teammates, and if you're just playing with the right people, then you're going to get this Easter egg done, and this Easter egg is definitely for you, because it does have a pretty cool reward, but again, you just have to be patient. Now, after matching the golden symbols on the floor, you of course have to take a sniper rifle, look into each of the dragon's mouths, and shoot a small ball out of each mouth. After that, the 2 small balls you just shot will spawn underneath the lion paws in the spawn room. So this is where the glitches come in. So hopefully you already built a trample steam at this point. It's of course required for both the Max's and Richtofen sides, but once you build the trample steam, you'll later on have to place these small balls on the trample steam.
The energy within the spheres is in flux. Fear not, we will meet them in due course.
Here's one of the biggest glitches that always pisses me the fuck off, because this has happened to me a couple of times. If Stuhlinger or Rustman picks up the balls, then it will glitch out the rest of the Easter egg. So the next step is fairly simple. All you have to do is go into the Buddha room and kill zombies directly in the center of it until Maxis says reincarnation will reveal its way forward.
Reduction in his limb count has not yielded a similar drop in aggression. The ammo is much like negative 459.67 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh! Yeah, look, but don't touch!
Incarnation, you reveal the way forward.
I would say the satisfactory amount of zombies to kill for the steps, probably around 30, since it does take a full round of killing zombies if you're like on around 5 or 6. So it's not too many, but after you hear that quote, this is where things can go to shit. And I'm so excited to be talking about this Easter egg step because this has been on my mind for about over a year now, and I was waiting to make this video before I talk about this, but this step is a fucking pain in the ass. This is where a player must acquire the ballistic knife from the mystery box and pack-punch it into the cross refibrillator. Then, of the players must go back to the booter room and shoot the cross defibrillator at a down player in the booter room. So obviously it's recommended for the person who's gonna go down to have who's who so we can get back up and keep their perks. After that, you're supposed to hear Maxis talk to the player, saying something like yes or perfect, little things like that to let you know you did the step right. This is where I get really pissed off. So there's times when a player acquired the ballistic knife before the booter room step where you had to kill zombies.
Oh, yes! You see, the energy of the broken soul has been released.
Move away now, unless they catch something worse.
Pack-a-punched it and it worked. There's times when he acquired it before the booter room step and it didn't work. There's times when you shoot a down player and it doesn't do anything. Maxis does not speak. There's times when you kill enough zombies, you shoot the ballistic knife around the room, you shoot it in random spots, you shoot the ballistic knife at the wall or the floor, and Maxis will talk, indicating that you beat the step. No matter where I've searched all over the internet, every single Easter egg guide, YouTubers, nobody has a direct way to really beat this fucking step. I don't care what anybody says, I've done everything. There's been games where we shot the ballistic knife at the wall, shot it at a player, jumped off the map. There's been so many crazy scenarios where we got this step done without even trying, or we're doing something that's not supposed to be done. But the other problem is not just doing this part, it's when you actually get the ballistic knife from the box and when you pack-a-punch it. There's been people that said that you're not supposed to get it until after you kill enough zombies in the booter room. There's been people that said get it at the start of the game. But again, you'll know you're fucked up when you pack-a-punch ballistic knife and you don't hear Maxis speak about keeping that device because it holds some great power. You'll know you fucked up when he doesn't speak to you after you pack-a-punch it. But again, after Maxis speaks to you, either when you shoot a down teammate, shoot the floor with it, shoot the ceiling with it, you can then go and place each of your trample steams on a lion symbol. So you don't have to build a trample steam right now. You could have built it at the start of the game. I haven't seen a glitch with the trample steam yet, so don't mark my words on whether or not this step could even glitch out. But this is why you need 4 players. You need 4 trample steams placed on the 4 lion symbols. And what you'll notice is that there's 2 pairs of trample steams, or you can say 2 sets. One trample steam that you place will face another one on the other side of the map, and same goes for a different set. So you have to place the 2 balls you got earlier on each of the pairs of trample steams. So place it on one here in the spawn room, place on the other one that's by the rooftops on the other side of the building. So after that, you'll notice that the balls will be flung onto the radio tower and they'll begin bouncing back and forth between each trample steam. You'll see 2 balls in the air going between each trample steam. It's really easy, and you'll know you beat the step when you see the orange surge of lightning go through the radio tower. So, as said, in step 5, the glitch will occur when Russman or Stuhlinger picked up the balls earlier and will not allow you to place the balls on these trample steams. Even if the players place the balls back on the lion's paw, allowing players like Marlton or Misty to pick them up, it still will not work. So make sure that the entire game, Marlton and Misty have these 2 balls and can place them on the trample steams. After that, here comes the final step, which is not too complicated if you take your time, and it is the Mahjong tiles, which I also wanted to cover here in this video. So now, one of the players in the game must obtain the Galvan Knuckles to complete this step. So I'm not going to really go in depth about the Mahjong tiles, but it's not that hard for people who've never done this Easter egg. So there are 8 tiles here around the map, and there's 11 locations for the tiles to spawn in. The order will be different every game, but the order will remain the same within each match. So each time the player does this step, it changes order from game to game, so it will not be the same in a different game of Dire-Res that you play later on that day. But as I said, in that particular match you're playing, the order will remain the same for that amount of time. So 4 of these tiles around the map have Chinese Mahjong symbols, which indicate a compass ordinal. The other 4 tiles are color-coded, with the directional tiles have indicate the order in which that particular post should be hit. So I'll put a little map on screen, or a guide I should say, that can kind of help you with this in case you're really interested in doing this. So the colors are red, blue, green, and black. For example, you might find a tile that's green that has a north symbol on it with 3 dots, which tells you that the north side of the tower has to be hit 3rd. The order of course changes every match. So the tiles can be found at any point in the game, as the order does not change at any point. So once again, it's not too hard, but you can also use trial and error to do this step. So if you're like, fuck it, I don't feel like going looking at all the tiles right now, you can just experiment, hit north, south, west, east, hit east, south, northwest. You can hit things like that until you eventually get the step done. But if you want to get it done pretty quickly, then you can go around the map, maybe at the start of the match or maybe in the middle of the match while other players are getting kills in the Buddha room. You can then go and look at the Mahjong tile order. Once the order is determined, the player must melee the bars with the Galvan Knuckles in that particular order. North, of course, faces the Trample Steam room and west faces the sun. Figuring out south and east are just opposites. Very simple process of elimination. The radio tower will then have a surge of orange electricity hit it, indicating that you have completed high maintenance. Matches will then grant you with the 6 available perks here on Die Rise, which of course doesn't include PhD Flopper, sadly, even though there is a troll perk machine of PhD Flopper near the elevator shaft. Now, after that, you'll get the achievement and boom, you're done. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to do the Richtofen side of this Easter egg, you of course have to do the rest of the Easter eggs you haven't done on that side, which could be Transit and Buried, and activate the endgame button, which will then allow you to do the other side of the Easter egg quest. So the Maxis side isn't too hard. Again, if there weren't any glitches with the ballistic knife or the small balls you have to pick up, then it would be fairly simple to do every time you play Die Rise. But due to the glitches, it may take you 3 to 4 tries. It may take you a couple of days where you have to wait for your players and friends to get online to have a group of 4. Shit like that, they can really ruin this Easter egg. And I can see why in Black Ops 3, Shadows of Evil was the only Easter egg where you needed 4 players. Maybe they just noticed, hey, not a lot of people can have a group of 4 all the time. Maybe they want to do it solo. Now let's move on to the Richtofen side of this Easter egg. So what's interesting about this Easter egg is that both the Richtofen and Maxis sides start off the same way and then take completely different paths to the end of the actual Easter egg itself. So of course with the Richtofen side you have to turn on the power to begin. You don't need a nav card table to be built. And the 4 players also have to step on those 4 golden circles again.
Yes! The energy fields are growing! There's a manipulation needed before they achieve!
So that doesn't just apply to the Maxis side, but it also applies to the Richtofen side. One thing you'll notice is that when all 4 players stand on the 4 golden circles, you'll hear both Maxis and Richtofen talking at the same time. But in that case, you'll only hear Richtofen's voice from Stuhlinger's point of view, while you'll hear Maxis speak from the radio tower in the center of the map. So that of course is sort of telling you, hey, you can choose Maxis or Richtofen. That's what this step is really for. So after stepping on the 4 golden circles, you of course have to match the gold symbols on the floor. I'll of course put more footage of that step here on the Richtofen side. And after that, you then have to acquire the sniper rifle again and shoot the balls out of the dragon's mouths. So once again, the first 4 steps of the Richtofen side here of Die Rise is exactly the same as the Maxis side. So if you're familiar with the steps already for Maxis, then it'll be a breeze doing it for Richtofen. After that, you of course have to acquire the wonder weapon on this map, which is the Soliquifier. So it's not the best wonder weapon in the world, but it is pretty useful. I would say it's gotten people to high rounds even after the patch that Treyarch released for it, which really nerfed it up a little bit. But in terms of the power of the Soliquifier, it is pretty useful if you want to have zombies slipping and sliding everywhere, or if you want to accumulate a huge horde and just shoot it right in the center of them. You can kill a pretty fair amount of zombies. I wouldn't say it's the worst wonder weapon, since I think that award goes to the VR11. But what I also noticed is that within the Transit trilogy with the Victus crew, Richtofen's side is the side that always required the wonder weapon of that map. As we saw in Transit, you needed the jet gun, and here on Die Rise you need the Soliquifier. And on Buried you'll see you need the Paralyzer as well. So what you need to do is take the Soliquifier, continuously shoot the balls, each one, until they begin to spin. This will take approximately 20 shots on each ball, so it's wise to save the Soliquifier's ammo prior to this occasion, and if you unfortunately run out of ammo, then all you have to do is get a max ammo, and boom, you can continue with doing this step. So I would say it takes about 2 full clips on each ball, like I said, about 20 shots. After that, after both the balls are spinning, Richtofen should tell the player to make a blood sacrifice.
If you cannot follow my instructions, then you're of no use to me.
provide cover fire? You people can't even master basic tactical maneuvers.
Maxis is now locked in the systems, allowing Richtofen to proceed. Scattered around the map are symbols that are very similar to the Maxis lion symbols that we just saw, where you had to place trample steams on each one, and those balls on those 2 trample steams. Except with the Richtofen side, you have these zombie symbols on the ground. There's only 4 of them, of course. You have to place a trample steam on each one, pointed directly at the tower, and all you have to do is have zombies be killed by the trample steam so that their bodies can fly right into the fucking tower, which of course makes Richtofen very, very happy. So again, after placing all 4 trample steams down in the correct spots, Richtofen will then proceed and tell you that you have to get zombie kills, so on and so forth. What I've noticed is that in different games that I played here on the Richtofen side, I've had maybe 1 or 2 players get zombie kills with the trample steams, and that actually was enough to complete the step. I've had a different game where it needed all 4 trample steams to get kills with some zombies, but I would say just try it out, experiment a little bit, see if 1 or 2 trample steams is enough to get your kills. But do remember, you have to have all 4 trample steams placed down, even if only 1 or 2 are going to be used to kill your zombies. So after that, you then have to acquire Galva Knuckles, similar to the Maxis side, and you have to do the Mahjong tile step, which is exactly the same as the Mahjong tile step on the Maxis side. So if you're familiar with how to read them and how to hit the beams on the actual tower in the correct order, then you're all set to complete this Easter egg as fast as you want. So the Easter eggs aren't too different from each other. You do get the same reward for doing each side, all perks of course, which you do lose if you go down. So you should have Who's Who, of course. Now, after the first 4 steps of each Easter egg is when the paths sort of differentiate with each other. On the Maxis side, you of course have to get the ballistic knife, get kills in the Buddha room, make a sacrifice, and then place those balls on the trample steams. While Richtofen is pretty simple. You have to build the wonder weapon, which is this liquefier, shoot the balls, and then get some zombie kills with your trample steams. Not too different from each other, but it is pretty cool to do. It is pretty cool to see if Richtofen would have won. We all know that the Maxis side is canon here in Black Ops 2. So that's about it for Die Rise. Again, I like the map. It's pretty fun to play on, and high rounds aren't too hard to get to. But in terms of the Easter eggs, damn, those glitches just ruin it sometimes. The Maxis side especially, but Richtofen's side is a little bit more direct, with just getting a wonder weapon, doing some steps, and you should be all good. But we do take a break from the Victus crew for a whole DLC. We don't see the return of them until DLC 3, which is buried. So now, you guys know what the fuck we're about to do. We're moving on to Alcatraz, DLC 2, aka Mob of the Dead. Now, coming in at number 7, we have one of my favorite zombies maps of all time, and this is Mob of the Dead, featuring the Pop Goes the Weasel Easter egg, which in my opinion is one of the most beautiful Easter eggs of all time in terms of storyline, gameplay, the flow of the map itself. Everything about it is just glorious, and I'm so excited to be sharing some gameplay of it here on screen. This is the first zombie map to feature an intro cutscene. This is also the first map where we could essentially say is the beginning of the Blundell era for Call of Duty Zombies. You could argue that Jimmy Selinsky was still in creative control of zombies at this time, but I believe over at Treyarch, when Mob of the Dead released, they all knew that Blundell would eventually be taking up that mantle as director of zombies. Some people think that it was a step in the wrong direction, but I personally think that it was a step in the right direction. He really opened up the storyline to new possibilities, new gameplay mechanics, new characters, theories, timelines, all types of really cool shit that I just don't think Selinsky would have done with zombies if he had stayed as director over at Treyarch. But in terms of this Easter egg, now again, I really think that the steps are just perfect for this map. They just fit really well with the characters that we have and the story that it's trying to be unraveled here on Alcatraz. So, the primary Easter egg featured on Mob of the Dead follows the playable character's attempts to escape the island. It is the first time ever in Zombies that the players can complete the level and end the game without being killed by zombies. It also marks the first time in Zombies that a playable character becomes hostile to the other players. To complete it successfully, players that are controlling Sal, Billy, and Finn will have to kill the player controlling the Weasel or vice versa. So yes, this is an Easter egg that has two endings, one in which you can break the cycle and one in which you can continue the cycle. So I remember when Revelations came out and the Easter egg was finally solved, people honestly thought that breaking the cycle on Mob of the Dead would essentially break the cycle for Primus on Revelations. But as we saw within the Call of Duty Zombies timeline, which is of course super official, the storyline featured in Mob of the Dead takes place in Purgatory and is a different dimension from the dimension in which Primus are actively engaged in, along with Ultimus, Victus, you name it. But Mob of the Dead is certainly connected to the entire zombie storyline, but I just think in terms of how Mob really fits with Primus and Ultimus and the blood vials, that's really going to be explained in the next game. That's just what I hope at the moment, but if it doesn't get explained in the next game and Mob is kind of disregarded in terms of storyline, then I guess the only connection we have is really just with the blood vials. But as we know from the timeline as well, Richtofen went to the physical, aka the real version of Alcatraz to pick up the blood vials from the prisoners. The gameplay we have on Mob of the Dead all takes place within Purgatory, so the crew in Purgatory doesn't ever meet Primus or Victus or anybody. So we can all say that the prisoners are already dead in the physical world, but it seems like they got a shot at redemption in Purgatory. So hopefully in Treyarch's next game they expand a little bit more on that little storyline, along with how Dr. Monty is the father of the Weasel. We learned that in Revelations, didn't really hear too much more about that little side arc, but like I said, Treyarch's next game is hopefully going to answer a lot of questions and not leave us on such a cliffhanger the Revelations did. So we have the No One Escapes Alive achievement for completing Pop Goes the Weasel. It cannot be completed on the easy difficulty and has to be done with at least 2 players, of whom one is Albert Weasel Arlington. However, all steps can be done in solo except for the ending, which is required to get the achievement and end the game. It is also possible to do the Easter egg on custom games while doing split screen, so also note that steps 1 and 2, which I'll be covering, are interchangeable and can be done without any particular order. This Easter egg of course has 2 possible outcomes: the cycle continues or is broken. Despite its description, each outcome will unlock the achievement/trophy. So I know the achievement is kind of biased towards one side of the cycle, but no matter what you do, if you break it or continue it, you'll still get the same achievement. So the steps on this map are, like I said, very interesting, but really progress the storyline of the characters, the map, and I just wish every Zombies map did that. And I hope that Treyarch takes inspiration from their magnificent work on Mob of the Dead for their next game, because what I noticed is that in Black Ops 3, the Easter eggs were fairly similar to the style of Mob, but at the same time, maps like Zetsubou and Revelations just could have done so much better with really focusing heavily on the main characters of that map. And not just the Primus characters on the map, but I would say 1.0 Takio, do some more storyline with him, you know, explore some more opportunities and new gameplay mechanics, do more with what you have. And I think it did that in Mob of the Dead, but I think fell a little bit short with maps like Zetsubou and Rev, as I said. Maps like Shadows of Evil, their Eisendrache, Gorod did such a magnificent job with doing exactly what I said. And hopefully, like I said, they continue that in their next game. So the first step is fairly simple, just acquire a free Blundergat. So you could of course get the normal Blundergat from the mystery box, which is a powerful ass wonder weapon, one of my favorite of all time. And you could of course upgrade this to the Acid Gat using a buildable little upgrade device. And this is of course a buildable that you can do at any time during the game. You can build it before you even get the Blundergat out of the mystery box, and you don't even have to use it at all. You can have the Blundergat out the box, pack a punch it as is, and boom, you have a badass upgraded weapon. Or you can upgrade your weapon to an Acid Gat and even pack a punch the Acid Gat itself. So you essentially have 4 different versions of this wonder weapon here on the map. A nice little variety for those people who get stale and bored of the same wonder weapons being overused over and over and over again. So in terms of obtaining a free Blundergat, so if you're like, fuck, one of my friends got the actual Blundergat out the box, you have a chance at getting a second one. So all you have to do is obtain the Hell's Retriever, which is obtained by feeding each of the 3 Cerberus heads and picking it up from the Citadel tunnels. You have to use the Hell's Retriever to collect 5 blue skulls located around the map. Once all the skulls have been collected, the demonic announcer is heard laughing, and a Blundergat can now be picked up from the table by Speed Cola in the Warden's office. Brutus will talk to the player when it is picked up. So again, this is a completely normal Blundergat. You can do anything you want with it. Pack a punch it, upgrade it to the Acid Gat, pack a punch it as the Acid Gat, anything you like. And yes, you can have 2 Blundergats going around at the same time on your zombie match. The next step includes the player obtaining the spoon. So this sounds very silly, but once again, you have to make sure that you have at least flown to the Golden Gate Bridge once and return via electric chair. So, the players now have to obtain the spoon using the process of summoning the Golden Spork. To do this, a player has to throw a frag grenade or the Hell's Retriever at a movie poster in a jail cell near the warden's office. After that, if done correctly, the poster is removed, revealing a hole in the wall and an afterlife symbol behind it. The player now has to enter Afterlife, go through the newly appeared Afterlife doorway in the wall opposite of the warden's office, next to the high voltage panel, and zap at a spoon on the ground next to the crack. The spoon to disappear, and the demonic announcer is now heard laughing. Now, a player must throw the Hell's Retriever at a spoon in the cafeteria, located on a metal table behind the barrier in the back of the room itself. When done, Brutus will talk to the player again. So, the next step then requires you to have at least flown to the Golden Gate Bridge 3 times. So I would really recommend having a solid team when playing Mob of the Dead, because if you're trying to really go for that badass achievement and to either break or continue the cycle, you're going to want to make sure that the players you're actually in a match with know what they're doing, know how to do what they're doing, and are ready to go as fast as they can, because since you have to fly to the Golden Gate Bridge at least 3 times, you don't want to be on round 30 or over trying to continue flying to the bridge and then go back, do some steps, go back. It's just not going to work. Just make sure that at the start of the game, what I would do is just fly to the Golden Gate Bridge at least 3 rounds in a row. So maybe by round 15, you're ready to just get all the steps done all at once. Again, you don't have to do it in that particular order. Again, you could fly to the bridge once, come back, do your little Hell's Retriever shit, and then get the skulls, 3 Blundergat, and then you can go ahead and collect your spoons. But the easiest way, I think, is just flying to the bridge 3 times and doing everything at once. That's just the way it's worked for me in the past with my team, but again, it's all up to you. So, after flying 3 times between the Citadel tunnels and the docks in the spiral staircase, the number pad, which we used earlier to get a part for the plane, should now be rapidly changing numbers, which can also be heard as constant clicking when entering the staircase. A player should now enter Afterlife and use the number pad to input the mobsters' prison numbers 101, 386, 872, and 481. After each number is entered, the numpad will blink and shuffle the digits. So what I would say is that have at least 2 people going for this step at once. Maybe save a crawler at the end of the round, have 1 player watch them, have the other 3 players with Afterlife stand by the Afterlife shock machine and just help each other out, communicate. Have 1 player go enter 1 set of numbers, have another player go enter a different set of numbers. Just do it accordingly. Make sure that everyone is on par with what you're supposed to do. Make sure someone is standing behind the player in Afterlife so that he or she could revive you if need be. It is also advised that the player in Afterlife has another player near the original body to repeatedly partially revive them, thus granting more time available for the player in Afterlife to enter the numbers due to the Afterlife meter halting when the player is being revived. So as I just said, even on any tutorial website or any tutorial video, it is advised to have someone with you to revive you just in case. When done, Brutus will talk to the player, the screen will turn black and white, and Stanley Ferguson starts narrating the events of the mobsters' escape plan. So even though these mobsters are dead in the physical world, it's still great to know how they died, what they did to get off the island, and what happened next. It's just great to know, because I'm assuming in Black Ops 4 or so on, this storyline will pay off, and understanding Stanley Ferguson, how Richtofen knew him, and how the mobsters had their escape plan, knowing all this will allow us to better understand whatever the grand scheme is in Treyarch's next title. We know that Stanley Ferguson played a little bit of a role when talking to Dr. Richtofen about building a secret lab under Alcatraz. We learned that in the Zombies comic, issue 6, and we also saw that in the Zombies timeline. So maybe Stanley Ferguson plays a role in Treyarch's next game. Maybe we'll see a little cutscene showing those actual events, putting Victus on ice. We'll just have to wait and see, but I think so far Mob has a pretty solid connection, but at the same time is a lot of just opportunity and just a lot of depth that could be explored with the mobsters and Dr. Monty and so on. But give Treyarch some time, I'm sure they'll explore that in their next game. So after the narration with Stanley Ferguson ends, pairs of headphones resembling a power-up appear all around the map, continuing the narration. New drops will not appear until the previous one has been listened through completely. The first appears in the staircase back up to the Citadel tunnels, then near Double Tap Root Beer, then on the walkway between the Warden's office and cafeteria, then in the staircase from cafeteria to infirmary, and finally on the staircase to the roof. After listening through each recording, the demonic announcer's laugh is heard. And here is the grand finale, the final step here of Pop Goes the Weasel. A player must board the plane in Afterlife. So after listening to all the audio logs, if each player enters Afterlife, Afterlife will be permanent. And you can then go up to the rooftop and enter the plane. So the game will not give a prompt to enter the plane, but using the action button next to it should be enough. If done right, the players will be put onto the plane, and the other players will also go immediately into Afterlife and appear onto the plane if they didn't do so already. The plane will take off and crash into the bridge as always. This time, the players will land in Afterlife mode with their original bodies in the electric chairs.
This is real.
No, I just do nothing. I'm not the bad guy.
It's believed that Arlington, aka the Weasel, somehow convinced 3 other inmates that he had devised a foolproof plan to escape the rock. It was a plan that would see them literally taking to the skies on a makeshift aircraft of Arlington's own design. Just how the Weasel managed to convince these hardened criminals that such a plan was even possible remains a mystery to this day. What is known is that no such plane was ever built. Instead, the group's plans for freedom soon descended into bitter argument and infighting. With the plan falling apart, anger and frustration would ultimately lead to a brutal altercation between the misguided Arlington and his former co-conspirators. Armed only with makeshift weapons, Finn O'Leary, Sal DeLuca, and Billy Hansen lured the unsuspecting Arlington to the roof, where they intended to exact a bloody and violent revenge, bleeding to death on the cold concrete roof. For their participation in the murder, the 3 collaborators were sent to death by electric chair. Justice came swiftly. On the morning of January 19, 1934, the execution order was carried out.
So it's a pretty cool sort of experiment that Treyarch went for here at the ending of Mob of the Dead, trying to have 2 endings. And I think this also sort of teases that in Buried, which is the DLC 3 zombie map for Black Ops 2, you also have 2 versions of the end game if you had done the Easter eggs of Tranzit, Die, Rise, and Buried for one side. So here at the ending of Mob of the Dead, this leaves a lot of people wondering, you know, okay, the cycle's broken or the cycle continues. Now, what's next for the mobsters? So at this point, we can't really say, since again, it takes place in Purgatory. It's not in the physical world. So hopefully, like I said, as Blundell had mentioned in some of his YouTuber interviews, Mob of the Dead has a purpose in the future, and that's why it wasn't included in Zombies Chronicles. But DLC 5 was really meant to remaster maps that are focusing on the core original 4 characters, the Ultimus crew, and to have just Mob of the Dead in there just for the sake of fan service and gameplay, then it just wouldn't have made sense and would have kind of threw Zombies Chronicles off balance. But let's say Chronicles featured Call of the Dead and Mob of the Dead, since both maps, in my opinion, are just fantastic and would just deserve a remaster, then that would have made a little bit more sense. But just Mob and Chronicles just wouldn't have fit. People also think that they could have sort of removed the World at War maps from Chronicles and just put Mob of the Dead and Call of the Dead in there, along with 5 or maybe a different map. But again, it takes away from that Ultimus feeling that Chronicles is meant to have. So we'll give props to Jason Blundell and the team over at Treyarch, and I do trust their instinct that Mob has a purpose at a later date, either as a remaster or a remake, maybe as a giant type bonus map, a part of the season pass with Black Ops 4, or maybe just some storyline that'll be explored in some of the upcoming maps they have to offer, in which maybe you teleport to Alcatraz, you can see Richtofen in a cutscene, putting Victus on ice, maybe something like that, that will give Mob of the Dead a little bit more purpose. But as I said earlier, as of right now, Mob just really focuses on the blood vials, Monty being the Weasel's father, and the mobsters understanding their escape plan and getting some redemption here in Purgatory. That's about it, as we see within the official Call of Duty Zombies timeline. But yes, this is one of my favorite maps of all time. Has some massive replayability, some really cool side quests. There are buildables. You have the shield, the acid gat kit, you can get the golden spork. It's just a lot of fun, and we are kind of reminded of the Cerebrus dog heads that consume souls, as we see in the Eisendrache, where the dragon heads consume souls in order for you to earn the Wrath of the Ancients. So it seems Treyarch kind of sort of reused that little mechanic in a way, but does serve some cool storyline purpose. But that's about it for Mob of the Dead. Moving on to the grand finale of the Victus trilogy, which is Buried.
You will stay forever.
Now, coming in at number 8, we have what is considered Jimmy Stilinski's final map in Call of Duty Zombies, known as Buried, featuring the Mind Games Easter egg quest, which of course has the achievement, also called Mind Games, for DLC 3 here in Black Ops 2. So this achievement / trophy requires the player to be their pawn. The Richtofen side involves completing the guillotine, while the Maxis side involves completing the gallows here on the map. So in order to complete this Easter egg, the difficulty must of course be set to original, as with Tranzit and Diarize. If not, all Easter egg related items will not spawn. 4 players are also required for each side's full completion, although steps 1 through 5 on the Richtofen side and steps 1 through 6 on the Maxis side can be done solo. At the beginning of the game, the players can hear Maxis talking about how to power up a tower seen from the starting room using an explosive found underground. Richtofen also talks to Stuhlinger about powering the tower as well, using an energy conduit that he says must be built, and warns Samuel not to let the tower be used to help Maxis. So, as with Transit and Diarize, the Easter egg could be completed multiple times, however there are limitations. Once one side has been completed, it will be locked in all subsequent playthroughs until the other side has been completed as well, which will in turn lock that side until the originally completed side has been redone, just like with Tower of Babble on Transit and High Maintenance on Diarize. Alternatively, the endgame present on Buried will also reset all Easter egg progress across all 3 maps, allowing players to redo them freely on either side. In addition, joining a game in progress will allow the player to redo the Easter egg so long as no one present in the game when it started has the desired side locked for the previously stated reasons. So as I talked about before, the canon ending is confirmed to be Maxis' side of the quest in the official Zombies timeline. So here we go on the Maxis side for the Buried Easter egg. I would say that the difficulty level of both the Maxis and Richtofen side are just about equal. There are about 2 or 3 complicated steps in each of the sides, but if you have a good team who wants to get the Easter egg done, then don't worry, it'll take you maybe a couple of tries, but just have patience with this Easter egg. But Buried of course features the return of the Victus crew after their absence in DLC 2, aka Mob of the Dead, and as I said before, within Mob of the Dead, you know, this is the beginning of the Blundell era. You know, Stilinski sort of had creative control on this map, but this is when Blundell started stepping in, sort of finishing whatever Stilinski had going before his departure from Treyarch, and it started a little little bit of a new storyline as we saw within Black Ops 3, but everything Slinsky did is still canon as we see within the Zombies timeline. But again, within Mob of the Dead, Blundell sort of got his feet wet with Call of Duty Zombies and being in creative control, and we of course see that in Origins later as well. But here for step 2, the Orb Breaker. So the players must now destroy the 4 red orbs using the Subsurface Resonator, which requires a turbine as well. So you of course have to build 2 of the buildables for this step, the Subsurface Resonator, which almost acts as a thunder gun in a way, and also the turbine, which we saw on Tranzit. So once you build both of the buildables here on the map, you have to go to the alleyway between the saloon and the candy shop to destroy the first red orb. You then can go to the left side of the entrance to the church behind the rock to find another orb. The third orb is in the tunnel system above the town building, and the fourth and final red orb is to the left side in the foliage before the entrance to the mansion from the maze. So again, the orbs are used in both sides of the buried Easter eggs, but here for the Maxis side, you simply have to destroy them, while as you'll see later with the Richtofen side, you simply have to paralyze them. So here for step 3, we have the lantern, which is pretty cool. So you have to use a grenade, and all you have to do is throw it perfectly so that it detonates right next to the purple lantern that's floating in the air.
I'm gonna keep this if no one else wants it.
And once it goes off close enough to the lantern will then fall to the ground. So the lantern usually floats from the courtroom to the church, or from the courtroom to the jail cell, so it will disappear occasionally if the players fail to hit it, and it will also disappear if the players leave the lantern on the ground too long. After this, after you successfully throw a grenade at it, and hopefully you time it well so you don't go down, the lantern will fall to the ground and you can then pick it up. So after this, you have to power up the lantern, and all you have to do is literally kill zombies using Leroy. So the easiest way to do this is of course to give him candy, and I would just say train zombies as much as you can. Have Leroy walking around with you guys, give him candy when you see a big enough train so that as he hits each zombie, you'll sort of hear a little indicator that he's collecting souls. And after enough souls, the players can then place the lantern on a symbol on the roof of the gunsmith shop. So again, this step is very simple, but if you're on too low of a round, it might drag. So I would say get to round 5, maybe at the highest, maybe 6 or 7 as well, depending on how good your team is, and just have Leroy come out his cage and just kill every zombie that you see in sight. That should be enough souls to complete this step. But the next step also requires some focus and concentration. This is the decryption step, in which you have to decipher the code that appears above the symbol on the wall using the tic-tac-toe cipher, which reveals the name of 3 signs, which the players need to hit in order with the Galvin Knuckles or the Bowie Knife to make the wisp appear. So these signs are randomly selected out of the 5 signs available. So here are the 5 tunnel signs. I'll put them on screen as well. The players will find the following signs in the tunnels. Each is 17 characters long if the player counts the spaces as a character. However, the player needs to only decode the first letter of each sign as they are all different. So here are the following signs. We have Dry Gulcher Shaft, the Lunger Undermines, the Consumption Cross, Ground Bitter Pits, and Bone Orchid Vein. All you really have to do is follow the code that I put on screen, or if you find the picture anywhere else on the internet, that's perfectly fine, because all you're doing is looking at the specific names on your cipher code and matching them to 3 signs that could be found in the tunnels. So once you of course hit the 3 designated signs that match your code, a wisp will then spawn. But first, you have to make sure that someone on your team has the time bomb. So this is a step where you get to kind of feel the nice variety of weaponry and equipment that Buried features. You of course have the badass Remington pistol. We have the time bomb, which is the first time we've ever seen this in a zombie map. We of course have the return of monkey bombs. We have the paralyzer wonder weapon, which is of course required for the Richtofen side. And we of course have the addition of the ray gun Mark II, which is just absolutely insane. And as long as you have downloaded the Vengeance map pack for Black Ops 2, then the ray gun Mark II is of course available on every other zombie map featured in Black Ops 2 itself. We of course saw the return of the ray gun Mark II in Zombies Chronicles for Black Ops 3. So you have to have the other 3 players here on the map in 3 very specific areas, training a group of at least, I would say, 4 to 6 zombies, so that when the 4th player comes down from the tunnels with the wisp will be kept charged as it passes through each designated area following a little group of zombies. So again, these zombies charge the wisp as it passes through each area, leading into the gallows here for the Maxis side. So at this point, the player will have to use a time bomb to travel back in time and repeat the above process. So what I would say is, right as the Wisp is about to enter the gallows for the Max's side, activate your time bomb, and a second Wisp will then spawn in literally the same spot and then go into the gallows, creating 2 charged energy points on the gallows itself, and boom, Max's will then speak and he is satisfied with step number 6. Now, step number 7 could definitely be a pain in the ass, so once again, have Leroy hold a crawler. Doesn't matter what round this is on, just make sure he's holding that damn crawler so you don't get distracted. Now, this step is of course for whom the bells toll. So the players are now able to ring the bells placed around the map by using the action button. There are 3 locations where the bells are, with each location having 3 bells each. So essentially, in a room just past a secret bookcase in the Haunted Mansion, there is a switchboard on a sofa with a lever. The switchboard has a 3x3 pattern of lights, which when activated will light up yellow or green. The columns from left to right correspond to the bells in the candy store, the barn, and the courtroom bells respectively. After figuring out which bell corresponds with which light, the team will have to activate the switchboard and the first light will appear. One player has to call out which light has lit up, while the other 3 players must be in a location ready to ring the bell that is called out. If the player successfully rings a bell, the light will turn green and another light will turn yellow, signifying which location/bell to ring. So for the person in the mansion, it's recommended to have the Galvaknuckles so the witch will die in one hit, as the player will most likely be in there a while. The players also have to ring the bell within a certain time frame, or else the switchboard will reset. So another reason this step is a pain in the ass is because you're going to have a shit ton of witches coming at you no matter where you are. So the 4th player who's calling out bells and what to ring is going to have to knife witches at the same time as he's reading out to other people. The 3 players on the map who are by all of the bells will then have to also kill the witches that come by them as they're ringing the bells themselves. So I would recommend having a bunch of ammo, have your Galvaknuckles or a Bowie knife, just to make sure that you can do this step without letting the witches kill you or take all of your money. I'd also recommend, as my team has done in the past, putting all your money in the fucking bank so that this step doesn't drain you completely of all the money you've earned here in this match, or maybe you have all your money out from the bank and it just gets stolen by the witches. While you're doing this, just put all your money away. You don't need any for this step. This step definitely requires a little bit of trial and error, and just as the sharpshooter step, you're going to have a lot of patience with it and make sure that Leroy is holding a zombie. So what I would do, and what my team has done in the past, is have each player who's standing by a set of bells ring each of their bells respectively, and as they ring each bell, the 4th player who's going to be by the switchboard will see which bell that person rang. So just have that 4th player keep track of which light corresponds to which bell, so that when the actual little game begins and each light starts lighting up, he can then know which bell he has to tell each player to click. So while that may sound confusing, you'll see it on screen and it's actually not that hard. So again, it's all about paying attention. If you have to write it down and record it with your phone, go ahead and do so. I would just recommend either by memory or writing down. Recording might take a little bit too long, but again, if the 4th player is skilled enough, he'll be able to recognize which bell corresponds to which light, and once the little game begins, in your certain time frame, you can then click each bell accordingly at the right pace so that the step could be completed. So right after this, we're coming on to step number 8, which is make a wish. And people do argue that Shangri-La has one of the hardest Easter egg steps of all time. I completely argue against that. Make a wish on Buried has to be one of the most time-consuming and difficult Easter egg steps out of every single Treyarch Zombies map. Yes, the Easter egg step makes sense, fits very well with that Western culture feel that this map Buried has, but if you don't have the right team who knows exactly where their targets are, if they didn't watch the tutorials, if they don't know the strategy with what weapons to use and how to conserve your ammo, then this step could take anywhere from 15 minutes to 3.5 to 4 hours. There's absolutely no way that you can argue that any other Easter egg step in any other Treyarch Zombies map is worse than this one. I have fun doing this step because I always play with a team that knows what they're doing. We usually get it done within maybe 20 minutes after like 2 or 3 fails. And it's pretty fun to do, but I've had games where I'm playing with people who don't know how to do it, or it's their first time, and you're sitting in the same match for 2 to 3 hours on the same round, just trying to do this step. And that's counting that you have money in your bank to keep buying ammo, because if you don't have money in your bank, you're gonna have to keep flying through rounds, risking your lives each round. If you're on a high-ass round, you're risking your life because you could get killed at any point, and you have to start all over in the next match with the whole Easter egg. So again, lots of things can go wrong with this Easter egg. Please do it with a team that knows what they're doing. So The players need to have the giant break the fountain in front of the church/mansion, which will cause water to start spewing out. Next, the players need to interact with the fountain in order to make a wish. After doing so, metal targets will spawn via lightning in several locations, with each player needing to shoot them all before it disappears. I just wish that Treyarch would have made it so that if one person misses one target, no matter how far you are in the game itself, then everything can end. But unfortunately, if one person misses a target halfway through the game, everybody else can still keep going, thinking that they're going to beat it. But at the very end, you'll hear a sound indication that you didn't get it done correctly. So this step could ruin friendships. It could be a big pain in the ass. And again, if you're playing with people that you don't normally play very well with, then this step is going to just make them block you and the game will then end. Someone's going to close their app and such. So in terms of advice for this, like I said, have enough money in your bank so that you can keep buying ammo. I would use the PDW since it has, you know, pretty much the most ammo out of every SMG here on the map. It's not too slow. It's not an LMG where it takes so long to reload. Another big thing is that you have speed cola, so that every time there's a little bit of like a delay in between new targets spawning in, you can reload your weapon and quickly get back to shooting. Just practice. Every time you hit the well to make a wish, the targets will spawn in the exact same spots per location. So it's not like the order changes every time. No, they will keep spawning in the same spots. So I guess that's the way that Treyarch made this fairly simple. And just watch a lot of tutorials, get used to the spots, pick a spot that you're going to stay at. You know, one thing I did before, and it really didn't work out well, was have players switch locations to try different spots, because then you're essentially starting all over. You then have to get used to new spots and see what you can do from there. What I would say is pick a spot, get used to it, don't give up, and keep trying with your PDW. Have a team to communicate so that if one person misses a target, then everybody can stop what they're doing, let the targets keep spawning in, and just miss all the rest. Don't waste any more of your ammo. So this is it. If every player on the map successfully shoots all of their targets in each location, then you'll hear a nice sound indication in which you'll be rewarded with every perk on the map, along with the Mind Games achievement. So also keep in mind, if you're in the same game doing Buried with the same people you already beat Tranzit and Diarize with, then right when you beat Buried, you can then activate the end game if you please to do so. If all 4 players have completed all 3 on the Max's side, have a player shoot the Easter egg tracker and press the revealed button. The screen will shake and the entire map will fade orange. Then, there will be a short confrontation between Maxis and Richtofen. After Maxis overthrows Richtofen and takes control of the ether, he will send Richtofen's soul into a random zombie and all the zombies' eyes will change to orange.
The process has begun. Now I control the ether's energy. I can at last reach Agatha! Ah, you fools! Why did you listen to him? Regretfully, I must inform you that neither the Earth nor its people will survive.
I got fucking powers, man!
Tried so hard to warn you.
Don't cough! Once the gateway is open, I will finally be reunited with my dearest Samantha.
Hello? Are you forgetting something? Even if your wretched daughter is still alive, she has my body!
If you are so eager to re-enter the physical world, Richtofen, I will grant you that fish!
Me around!
So there you have it. That was the canon ending to Buried. This was the super Easter egg here in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, in which Maxis wins and takes control of the ether. And it's essentially the end of the Ultimus/Victus storyline that we have in game, even though it was continued in the official Zombies timeline and within the Call of Duty Zombies comic. This is the last time in game when we see Victus and hear any information about the Ultimus crew.
Curse you,
So step number 1 of course requires the players to build the guillotine. So as I said with the Tranzit and Diarise sides, most of the steps on all 3 of these Easter eggs are fairly similar in terms of both the Maxis and Richtofen sides, and here on Buried it's essentially the same as with the Diarise side, where you start off the Easter egg the exact same way and end it the exact same way, but there's a couple of steps that are different in the middle of the Easter egg quests themselves. So for step number 1, you have to build the guillotine. So you do have to be careful because some parts can be used for both the gallows and the guillotine, and because of this step is also the point where players commit to which side they are completing for the current game. So you of course have to find 4 parts for the guillotine: the satellite dish, the spool of wire, the crystal, and the antenna. So these steps aren't too hard to find, but once you do get them all together, build them at the guillotine buildable location, and you'll then hear Richtofen speak to Samuel. So as I said before as well, make sure you have a logical person playing as Samuel here in game. Someone who has a mic, someone who's paying attention to when you're doing each Easter egg step, and someone who's communicating very well, letting everybody know that you can move on to the next step because Richtofen spoke to Samuel. If you're playing with someone who doesn't care, or doesn't have a mic, or is not paying attention, then you're never going to know if Richtofen spoke to Samuel or not, and you'll be in a never-ending loop trying to figure out if you did something or not. So after you successfully build the guillotine, you then have step number 2, which is to power the red orbs. So the same red orbs as we saw earlier in the Maxis side must now be paralyzed using the main wonder weapon here on Buried. So as with the other Easter eggs on the Richtofen side, you of course need the main wonder weapon on the map. So instead of destroying the red orbs this time with the subsurface resonator and the turbine, you have to take the wonder weapon, go up to each orb, and constantly shoot it until the orb turns this degraded and just polluted black color, which indicates that Richtofen is now in control of these orbs. So step number 3 also requires the lantern, as we also saw on the Maxis side. You have to use your grenade and throw it just on time so that it knocks the purple lantern out of the air, which will float from the courtroom to the church or from the courtroom to the jail cell. So you have to then power up the lantern, but this time it's a little bit different. The player must kill at least 10 witches.
It's all so perfect! I advise you to keep it up! Keep it up! I know I am.
After the player has powered the lantern with enough souls, the player has to place the lantern on a symbol on the roof of the gunsmith shop. So this step is then exactly the same as the Maxis side. You have to decipher the code, and I'll put it on screen again so you can see, by using the tic-tac-toe cipher, revealing the name of 3 signs located in the tunnels, which the players need to hit with the Galvan Knuckles or the Bowie Knife to make the wisp appear. So the order doesn't matter. These signs are randomly selected out of the 5 signs available, and you of course have Dry Gulcher Shaft, Lunger Undermines, Consumption Cross, Ground Bitter Pits, and Bone Orchid Vein. So the exact same step as the Maxis side. Match your signs above to the cipher by the lantern buildable, and after that you're on step number 5, powering the guillotine via the wisp. So the player must have Vulture Aid in order to see the wisp for this step. You have to have the required perk, Vulture Aid, for this step of the Easter egg. So I'm surprised that Treyarch didn't make people have the Tombstone perk on Tranzit for the Richtofen side, or even the Who's Who perk for the Richtofen side, but it's pretty cool that they really integrated Vulture Aid here for this Easter egg step. So to move the step, a player has to pass through it in a 15-second limit, or else it will fade away and the player will need to hit the signs again. In order to beat this step, just make sure that each player has Vulture Aid, because once you all have it, you can then see where the wisp spawns each time, and each player can then go up to the wisp and move it until it eventually reaches the guillotine. You have a 15-second time limit, and the locations are fairly simple each time you do this. It's way easier than the Maxis side, where you had to keep zombies around and charge the wisp as it moves through the map. This is a lot easier. So, as I said, once the player taps the button, they will disappear and reappear somewhere else, with the player able to see it through the wall via Vulture Aid. The player must lure zombies near the guillotine, so it will cause the orb to flow into the zombie, which the player must kill for energy. After killing each zombie, an orb will revolve around the crystal component of the guillotine. After powering up the guillotine, Richtofen tells the player that they need a time bomb. So, again, this is easier than the Max's side because you don't have to train zombies in specific spots to charge the wisp. As I said, all you have to do is pay attention to the same locations that the wisp can spawn to every time. Make sure a player is at each location to hit the wisp so that the wisp can then spawn to a new location. Do that within 15 seconds and boom, the wisp is on the guillotine, and bring all the zombies you have towards the guillotine so that the wisp can essentially charge the zombies this time. And then you just kill the zombies so that it'll build up energy for the guillotine. Again, you don't have to do anything else. It's a lot easier than the Max's side and it's pretty fun to do. So after this leads into step number 6, which is the switch in the future. This step could be a big pain in the ass, but again, it's just as hard as some of the Max's steps as well. So this is definitely one of the coolest Easter egg steps Treyarch has ever come up with in a zombies map. So the screen is now black and white, and you're on round infinity where the zombies are near invulnerable. So you can't shoot them, you can't kill them, nothing really you could do here on the map except throw a monkey to distract them. We have a 90-second time frame to find a switch in one of the dead bodies. There could be times when you search all 4 of the dead bodies and the switch just isn't in one of the spots, so you have to go back and use another time bomb to return to round infinity. So you of course have the dead bodies of Misty, Marlton, Samuel, and Russman. After successfully finding the switch in one of the dead bodies, you can then return to the present time and place the switch on the guillotine itself, and boom, we've activated step number 7, which is switches in the maze. So unfortunately this step is much more difficult than the bell step on the Max's side, just in my opinion. But for this step, the players have to enter the maze where there will be switches with 4 different colors, red, green, blue, and yellow, on 4 different gates. All players will have to activate these switches in the correct order via trial and error. If a switch has been activated in the correct order, it will spark after all 4 have been pulled. Note that no switches will spark until all the switches have been activated. They will only spark if they were activated in the correct position, and if the switches are activated in the incorrect order, if they aren't all sparking, they can be reset by activating all of them and having all 4 players return to the main area before having all players run through the mistress's house again. But remember, you have to run through together, and also note that sometimes a gate switch will not spawn, which is usually yellow, and it's the most reported switch not to spawn. Currently, the only way to fix this is to reset the switches in the method detailed above, and the yellow switch can actually sometimes be found on a hedge in the center of the maze. So all you really have to remember is that the yellow switch could glitch out sometimes. All you have to do is just look for it on one of the grass hedges around the map, and if you do find it, then click it, reset it, go back out of the map, and then go back in. If unfortunately you really can't find it, then what I would say is just reset the game and try it again. It's unfortunate that a glitch like this hasn't been fixed, and maybe will never be fixed, but another little strategy is that if you go in the candy shop, behind the counter there are 4 jars, and I personally have tried this strategy before and it has worked, but there have been games where it didn't work. So I'm not sure how honest this step is, but each jar has a specific color of candy. Sometimes if you read them left to right, while at a good starting point, this may or may not give the player the correct color order of the switches. So again, trial and error will be the best bet for everyone on the team, and remember to mark which possibilities have already been tried by the team. So what I would say is, even though this is not too hard to do since there's only 4 switches with about, I would say, 16 different combinations, all you have to do is just try red, blue, yellow, green, and if none of them spark, then try a different first starting switch. So then try something like blue, green, red, yellow, or green, yellow, blue, green. Keep trying different switches for the first position, the second position, and so on. Again, it's not that hard, but if you want to try the candy shop strategy, go ahead and do so. I've had a game where it was exactly right. I think it was like yellow, red, blue, green, and we tried that and boom, got the step done in one try. We've had games where the candy shop had, I think it was red, green, blue, yellow, and just didn't work. So just keep trying, see what you can do. Have someone write down on their notepad or something in their phone which positions didn't work and which did, so that you can just use the process of elimination to see that if red is the correct first switch, then you can then try yellow, blue, or green for the second switch, and so on. So as with the Max's side, you of course have a specific amount of targets in 4 different locations. We have 20 targets beside the candy store, 23 near the mansion, 19 inside the saloon, and 22 targets by the jail cell. So for this side of the Richtofen Easter egg, I of course will give you the same advice as I would for the Max's side when shooting all of your targets. After you have successfully done so, you'll then be rewarded with every perk on the map and the Mind Games achievement if you haven't got it already. So after this, you're now ready to do the end game for Richtofen's side. So if all 4 players in that game have completed the Easter eggs for Richtofen's side, then you can have a player shoot the Easter egg tracker and press the big red button. The screen will shake and the players will hear a short confrontation between Richtofen and Maxis. After Richtofen declares his victory and Maxis ceases to exist, he will partially take over Samuel's body and remain inside Samuel's head. As a bonus, all players will have a permanent fire sale, as well as a special variant of Mule Kit.
So I gotta go look for more junk?
Finally, I am in control! The ether is mine to manipulate as I wish! The world is now my own! Positive plaything!
What have you done?
I've won, Maxis! That's what I've done!
At this point, I would like to draw my attention to my rather dire ammunition situation.
Your actions condemn my daughter's very soul to eternal damnation! Even if you do not care for her, surely you wish to return to your own body!
Not really, no. Won't I already possess the power to leave this netherworld and re-enter the physical realm once more? I can choose anybody I wish! As for you, Maxis, you will simply cease to be! Max ammo! Take a deep breath, Samuel.
Crawlers will
We're
respect
about
their
to get
hostility when the big guy shows up.
closer.
Yes, the Mark II is indeed a significant enhancement.
Richtofen's side gives you an advantage in terms of gameplay. So again, I would say if you're going to go for high rounds, then I would end your game of Mind Games and go into a fresh new one with the same 4 people, activate the end game, and try to get to high rounds with this Richtofen strategy, using 4 weapons, a permanent fire sale, and this really cool dialogue with Samuel and Richtofen. It's really, really fun to do, and it's a pretty cool ending that unfortunately isn't canon, but again, maybe one day Treyarch will make it canon in an alternate timeline or alternate reality where Richtofen actually wins and Max is just gone forever. So this is pretty cool, but again, if this was canon, then also remember Black Ops 3 wouldn't have happened, since because of the ending of Buried with Maxis, Samantha then travels and seeks some help from the Dimension 63 Maxis in the Origins timeline. So if that's confusing to you, then I'll be explaining that in the next part of this video, which is of course focusing on DLC 4, aka Origins. So that was it. That was the end of the Ultimus/Victus era, also known as the Jimmy Stilinski era of Call of Duty Zombies. Now we are moving on to bigger and better things. This is now officially the Blundell era of Call of Duty Zombies. It kind of got started a little bit with Mob of the Dead, but here we are going full force into Blundell's vision of zombies with Origins. Here we go.
Wow.
So here we have it, fog rolling in, the ancient staffs and the introduction to the Primus crew. This is also another map that has an intro cutscene, since as we all know, Mile of the Dead was the first map to feature an intro cutscene, but this time Origins features both an intro and an outro cutscene. This is another map that was remastered with DLC 5, aka Zombies Chronicles for Black Ops 3. So, the Little Lost Girl achievement is the main Easter egg here on Origins, requiring the player to release Samantha. So this trophy can be obtained with any number of players, including solo. But again, on solo, this will be one of the longest and most time-consuming Easter eggs of all time. Since on solo, you're going to have to upgrade all 4 staffs yourself and do all the steps while you're really in danger. But again, it was a lot harder back in the Black Ops 2 days. We didn't have gobblegums, there was no near-death experience or Phoenix Up and shit like that. So for Black Ops 3, it's a little bit easier with those kind of mechanics. But on solo, it's almost just as hard, but again, you do have the advantage of near-death experience and little gobblegums that can boost your significant playthrough. So keep note, in the Black Ops 2 version, it should be noted that proceeding past step 1 is impossible on easy difficulty, and in Black Ops 3, this achievement is only worth 15 gamer score instead of 75. Who knows why that is, but we of course have step number 1, which is secure the keys. So you have to obtain and upgrade all 4 elemental staves: the Staff of Fire, Staff of Ice, Staff of Lightning, and the Staff of Wind. So I of course uploaded a pretty detailed tutorial for how to build and upgrade all 4 staves here on Origins. It's not too hard to do. They're all pretty equal in difficulty, at least in my eyes, and like I said earlier, just make sure you have a team that wants to get this Easter egg done, that knows how to upgrade all the staffs, so that you can easily choose who's doing which one. You can each do your own thing as you're setting up. Get your weapons, pack a punch, get all the generators turned on, build a shield, build the Max's drone, do whatever you gotta do, followed by upgrading your stats. So this leads into step number 2, which is to ascend from darkness. Once all the staves are upgraded, the players must place each of the 4 staves in the pedestals that have now appeared around the map. 1 pedestal spawns in front of the original staff pedestals on the lowest level of the excavation site, and 3 more spawn in each of the giant robot's head. Each player must place a specific staff in a specific pedestal. Once the staves have been placed, they cannot be picked up until after the step is completed, which is when they return to the original pedestals in the excavation site. So, Ice is going to be placed in the Freya robot, the left robot that goes through the church. We then have the Wind Staff, which is going to go in Odin, the center robot that goes through the excavation site. You're going to have the Lightning Staff going in Thor, which is the right robot going to generators 2 and 3. And you of course have the Fire Staff going in the staff room itself, the 4th pedestal in the center of the area in front of the original 4 pedestals. So keep in mind, the stabs can be put in any order, and the player will know if the task is completed correctly, as Samantha will give a voice notification, and all stabs will be available again in the staff room, while the pedestals used for the step will despawn. So my biggest word of advice to you guys is to get this done on the earliest round possible. You know, my team and I usually get it done between rounds 10 through 13, just to make sure that we have decent weapons to survive the hordes of zombies and the panzer bosses that spawn in occasionally with, you know, maybe a Pack-a-Punch STG, the Pack-a-Punch MG08, shit like that, since you do feel kind of naked playing Origins without your staff. So if you don't get this step done on time, then you're going to end up getting to around 25 or over with just weapons that could be fairly weak against the panzers and such. So step number 3 is Rain Fire. After placing all the stabs in the pedestals, all 3 robots now continuously roam the map at the same time until the step is completed. Only one of their feet will be lit up, meaning only one can be entered at a time. For this step, one player needs to enter one of the robots and press the red button that has appeared. As soon as the button is pressed, another player has to throw a G-Strike beacon on the seal behind and to the right of Generator 5 out of bounds. It looks like a big circle of cracked stone on the ground. The G-Strike is thrown inaccurately. It will disappear and the demonic announcer can be heard laughing. If done correctly, and soon enough, from pressing the red button, the robots will fire an artillery on the seal, breaking it. Samantha can be heard talking, and a smaller audio cue plays. If done correctly, you'll now move on to step number 4, which is to unleash the horde. After breaking the seal, deploy the Max's drone near it. He will enter the pit, and after that, Panzer Soldats will fly out and attack the players. High damage weapons such as the Ray Gun Mark II, the G-Strike, or the upgraded stabs are recommended to dispatch them. So this is similar to the Mangler lockdown step on the Gorod Krovi Easter egg, except I call this the Panzer lockdown here on Origins. So After killing all of them, the players can move on to the next step, which is step number 5, score the winged beast. When the player obtains a zombie blood, they can see a plane in the sky glowing yellow, similar to the one that drops a piece for the Staff of Fire. When it is shot down, its zombie pilot will drop down to the ground. The zombie will circle the excavation site in a clockwise pattern and, like the plane it was in, can only be seen in zombie blood. So my biggest tip for you guys is to use a zombie blood from the beginning of the game, which can be found in the reward chest, or if you're using gobblegums to get one, also do that on the Black Ops 3 version. But I know a strategy in Black Ops 2 would have been to simply use your Staff of Ice to shoot those barrels that are on fire, and boom, it'll spawn a zombie blood for you. But I believe you can only do that once per round. So also make sure that you try this to the best of your ability. Save a crawler while you do this, but if not, you're gonna have to end the round. Try that Ice Staff little strategy again. But if not, if you want to do it an easier way, then maybe have a bunch of zombies coming at you while you do this, and use Power Vacuum so that hopefully every player can gain an advantage by hopefully getting a zombie blood pickup. And after that, you can then find the zombie. But you have to be quick doing this, or else you're gonna have to restart this step. Leading into step number 6, which is to wield a Fist of Iron, aka the Iron Fist. So this is where players must now obtain the Thunder Fist if they haven't already, and upgrade it by hitting 20 Crusader zombies, each with white glowing arms inside the excavation site. So this is why I said earlier, have your stabs upgraded, get your Thunder Fist early, get your G-Strikes early, so that you can just fly right past all these steps as easy as possible, so you're not trying to collect souls by your chest to get the Thunder Fist on round 30 or over. So here we have it, use your Thunder Fist to hit these Crusader zombies who have these white glowing orbs around them. And after you do that, you don't necessarily have to kill those zombies afterwards, but it is recommended to maybe throw Monkey Bombs or G-Strikes to round up all your zombies in a circle, punch each one that has the white glowing orb, and then shoot them all to get rid of them, and proceed until you kill about 20 of them. Once the players hit enough zombies, a tablet with a white glow will drop, which can be picked up to obtain the Iron Fist. Note that picking it up will make a short white flash that can blind the player momentarily, but can also stun nearby zombies, in which they become knocked over for a couple of seconds. Although after round 20, the zombies will not be knocked over, they will be stunned for around half a second. So this is pretty dangerous, so make sure you're in a pretty decent spot when you pick up that tablet. All players in the game must obtain the Iron Fist in order to proceed to the next step. It is recommended to not hit Crusader zombies that are just coming in from the walls, as the tablet can drop out of the player's reach, making the rest of the Easter egg impossible to complete. So as you've noticed, this Easter egg isn't that hard to do, but it is very time consuming, and the majority of the Easter egg goes to simply building and upgrading the stabs. After that, there's only a couple of other steps that are pretty simple to do if you have the right team, or if you have the right strategy to do so. In Black Ops 3, it's a little easier to do all this, but in Black Ops 2, everything was kind of on a time limit to make sure that you're not getting to a high-ass round where some of these steps are just impossible to do in the excavation site. But after this, after all 4 players have the Iron Fist, we're now going to step number 7, which is to raise hell. The stabs must now be placed inside the crazy place on their respective pedestals, and after all have been placed, 100 Templar zombies must be killed inside the crazy place. If done correctly, the zombie souls will float up into the air. When enough zombies are killed, the screen will flash bright, and the portal has now been opened, making the ceiling of the crazy place look like a vortex. And also note that completing this step unlocks the achievement/trophy, making the following step optional. I would just say get set up to the best of your ability when you're getting to step number 7. You know, right before you place your stabs in the crazy place, go get your Pack-a-Punch weapons, get some Pack-a-Punch variant ammo in Black Ops 3, or in Black Ops 2, just make sure you have some monkeys and some fairly decent weapons. But of course in Black Ops 3, it's almost a breeze to just use Power Vacuum or near-death experience and get this stuff done fairly easily. So after that, after you get the achievement, Little Lost Girl here for Origins, you don't have to do the next step, but if you really do want to, and I would recommend doing it on Black Ops 2, of course, because you're not going to lose any gobblegums, but step number 8, Freedom. If the player wishes to free Samantha and complete the Easter egg, they need to deploy the Max's drone in the crazy place. She will rise up into the portal, saying, "Samantha, I must go to her. The paradox must be resolved." After this, the player can hold the action button on the blue rock in the center to access the teleporter, which ends the game. The ending music will be different, and the camera will pan into the portal instead of showing the excavation site and the giant robots as usual. After that, the scoreboard is shown, and a special cutscene will also play, and I'll of course put little bits of it on screen so you can see.
out. Saving your ass is not a priority right now.
At last, I'm to be free from Gorod. 4 heroes were rewarded with riches beyond imagination.
So what usually happens in my games of Origins is we get to the step, the player who needs the achievement gets the achievement itself by killing the 100 zombies, and then everybody closes app to save their gobblegums. But on Black Ops 2, it's kind of just like, okay, we did the Easter egg, got the achievement, let's enter the portal and watch the cutscene. But on Black Ops 3, it's like, okay, we already saw the cutscene, let's just close our app so we don't lose anything, and boom, that is it. But the Origins Easter egg is really, really cool to do, and I think it's definitely the beginning of the gameplay structure we have within Black Ops 3. Origins really set up the gameplay experience we would see in Black Ops 3, as we have this new boss, the Panzer, we have these different wonder weapons, the stabs, which are kind of similar to the bows we have in a DLC map known as the Eisendrache. And I think Blundell wanted to make sure that our community was ready for newer types of Easter eggs, which didn't have too many puzzle-like steps, but of course incorporate a lot of different gameplay, mechanics, buildables, wonder weapons, so on and so forth. Something that wasn't too similar to maps like Die Rise or Buried, which Stilinski developed very, very well with the team, but I think Blundell knew that it was time for that to kind of come to an end, start introducing some new types of gameplay for future zombie maps. We don't want to have the same maps over and over again, easy maps like Buried or harder maps like Transit, unfinished maps like Transit, as I would say, and shit like that. So as we have it, we are now moving on to the best and biggest experience for Call of Duty Zombies, in my eyes, which is Black Ops 3. So we saw within Black Ops 2 we had a variety of different maps which, you know, were fairly fun and fairly interesting, incorporating new types of storylines, pretty interesting Easter eggs. We had the Trilogy for Transit, we had Mob of the Dead, we had Origins, we had a couple of new game modes, but now we're moving on to the continuation of the premise storyline as they close off the other timelines by killing their other selves. So here we have it, starting off with Shadows of Evil.
You bear the mark. You are cursed. You must place your hand upon the stone.
Coming in at number 10, we have the beginning of Black Ops 3, which is Shadows of Evil. Now, I'll be completely honest with you guys, when they revealed this map at Comic-Con almost 2 years ago, I was really skeptical about whether or not I would like a map like this, because we saw the gameplay of how we had giant tentacled beings, parasites, and wasp-looking things in the sky. I didn't know how to feel. A lot of people were feeling the same way. They're like, okay, how is this zombies? Why are they drawing so far away from the gameplay we're all used to? Why is this happening? What is Blundell doing? Did he fuck everything up? And I understood that point of view when we saw the gameplay, but when we actually played the map itself, and we saw the connections to Mob of the Dead, we saw the whole storyline with the Apothicans and the Ancient Evil, we saw the purpose behind the Shadow Man being on this map, and we saw artifacts of the Summoning Key and other things as well, we began to realize that Blundell just took a storyline that Stilinski never really focused on too much in the Black Ops 1 days, which was this idea of the Ancient Evil being the root of the zombie apocalypse. He expanded that in a crazy ass way, which is honestly how I could define the Black Ops 3 zombie storyline altogether, and it connects very well back to Black Ops 1 and 2, and even the World at War days as well, as we saw within the official Zombies timeline. Blundell and the team made sure that if they're going to take a big leap of faith like this and do something completely different with their launch map of Black Ops 3, a huge ass title, then they're going to make sure that they connect it as much as possible to previous installments of the Black Ops series and previous installments to the zombie storyline altogether. So Shadows of Evil takes place in the 1940s fictional Morgue City, where it introduces us to 4 new characters: Nero Blackstone, Jessica Rose, Jackie Vincent, and Floyd Campbell. They are transported to a nightmarish realm by the Shadow Man himself, a supernatural being pushing for their repentance. So on this map, we have the variant of the zombie shield as we saw within Origins, and this is the rocket shield now. We have a new perk known as Widow's Wine, and unfortunately, throughout all of Black Ops 3, we were hoping for new perks on every map, just as we got within Black Ops 2, with perks like Tombstone, Who's Who, Vulture Aid, and even Electric Cherry. And unfortunately, on Black Ops 3, we only got one new perk, which is Widow's Wine. Luckily, Electric Cherry returned on every single map. That's of course excluding the Zombies Chronicles maps. We also have the Gobblegum system altogether, and I'll talk about that in a second, but This is the introduction to everything that has to do with the Black Ops 3 movement system. Everything that we're going to learn and use throughout the DLC season is all being introduced here within Shadows of Evil. But as I was saying earlier, we have 3 new enemies on the map. We have the Margwas, the Parasites, the Insanity Elementals, enemies that we're not used to facing in a typical game of zombies. Even for a map like Origins, we had the Panzer boss, which is still very much alike the other zombie bosses we've seen in the past. But here on Shadows of Evil, we have a completely new set of enemies that have nothing to do with the zombies we're used to shooting or destroying their power cores or their masks. This is a whole new type of enemy, the Apothecans. And we also see the Keepers on this map as well, which to me is really interesting for the Easter egg. But Blundell chose a very specific storyline, and I know why he did that, because I do feel that if zombies would have stayed the same for so long with the same storyline, same gameplay mechanics, same type of Easter eggs, then it would have got stale so fast and just wouldn't have been as successful as a game like Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2, in my opinion, is the last of its kind. A simple zombies experience with pretty complicated puzzles, pretty cool challenges, but at the same time, Blundell looked at that as a weakness and said, okay, well, now we have a 3-year development cycle to make Call of Duty, so let's do something more, something fresh. Maybe not as many game modes as Black Ops 2 had, but something very rich with the storyline, the gameplay mechanics for the DLC season of Black Ops 3. So the Easter egg itself on Shadows of Evil is really not that hard, and I would honestly say that it's almost easier than a lot of the Easter eggs we saw in Black Ops 1 and 2. So, as I mentioned earlier, the Easter eggs in Black Ops 3 are a lot less like massive puzzles and quests and more like just a massive adventure facing a boss and building a wonder weapon, shit like that. That, again, is somewhat similar to Black Ops 1 and 2, but really dives deep on a really different level. So instead of solving a big-ass puzzle and it takes you about 2 hours, or playing Sharpshooter on Barry for an hour and a half, you have a massive boss to look forward to facing. And with the introduction of gobble guns, it makes your gameplay experience a lot easier. So we have the Apocalypse Averted, also known as Playing for Keeps, Easter egg here on Shadows of Evil. And the funny thing about this is that it's kind of similar to the Easter eggs we had on Ascension and Shangri-La in the sense that you need 4 people in order to completely beat this Easter egg. But the funny thing about Shadows of Evil as well is that you can actually do almost every single step without 4 people, but if you don't have 4 people spawned in the same match towards the end of the Easter egg, then the final step will not activate in your game, and you're just going to have to leave your game or restart it or play a different match with a group of 4 in order for that last step to actually trigger in your game. So I've been in a game, as you're seeing on screen, where I'm with one other person. We do every single step of the Easter egg, and then towards the end we face a Shadow Man, beat him, and the final step is not triggered because there aren't 4 people in the game. But I will show gameplay of 4 people in a game of Shadows of Evil in which we actually get the train step to work. So another thing to note is that the Easter egg itself isn't too long, but if you're playing with 4 people who know what they're doing, then you can get it done in maybe less than an hour. I've had it done in less than an hour before, at least countless times. And all you really have to do is get set up, pack-a-punch your weapons, open up the pack-a-punch room for the most part by doing your rituals around the map, which is another new feature on this map as well. We have the introduction of Beast Mode, which in my opinion is fairly similar to the Afterlife mode we had back on Mob of the Dead, except if you don't go back and revive your body on time, you'll just automatically be respawned as your normal self, instead of Mob of the Dead's experience, where if you didn't revive yourself while in Afterlife, you'll just simply go down, which to me was a big downfall of that feature. And hopefully, if they remaster Mob of the Dead, then we'll get to see a revamp of Afterlife where you don't have to revive yourself every single time. So after doing all your rituals here on the map using Beast Mode, crafting the ancient items together in order to do the rituals, then you have to just acquire the Apothecary Sword, which is a pretty powerful wonder weapon. I know a lot of people in the Zombies community were actually asking for a sword-like weapon on Call of Duty Zombies, and finally, Blundell granted that to us here on Shadows of Evil. And what's even more cool about that is you can actually upgrade the Apothecary Swords as well, which is also required for this Easter egg. So once you have the basic sword, the next step is just jumping right into upgrading your sword by taking a black egg, which is essentially an upgrade for the original egg you used to collect your souls and gain the sword in the first place. You take this black egg and you do 4 rituals around the map, but you're limited to doing 1 upgrade ritual per round. And in that ritual, all you have to do is kill 1 or 2 Margwas each, and after that, after you've killed about, let's say, 6 or 7 Margwas, for your upgrade ritual, you can bring your black egg back to where you got it from in your designated location for the character you're playing as, and boom, you'll be rewarded with your upgraded sword. But once again, it takes at minimum 4 rounds to get this upgrade done, because you can only do 1 upgrade ritual per round. So I'd recommend having every player communicating well, making sure that they each give themselves enough time to do at least 1 upgrade ritual per round, so that maybe you can all have your upgraded sword by around the same time, maybe around 14, maybe around 16, and you'll all be set for the next step, which to me could be a big pain in the ass, but luckily, thanks to Gobblegums, we have a Gobblegum like Fear in the Headlights, which makes this flag step so much easier. So yes, we have a badass wonder weapon on this map, the Apothecary Servant, which acts pretty similar to the Gersh device that we saw back in the Black Ops 1 days, except this time it does a little bit more damage, and it works a lot faster than the Gersh device. You can't actually jump through it or and teleport anywhere, but it's still pretty powerful against killing zombies and even some of the parasites and Margwas as well. So you have that wonder weapon to use against the unlimited number of meatballs that come and try to attack the flag that you put down. But with a Gobblegum like Fear in Headlights, all you have to do is look at the meatballs and they won't ever touch your flag, and you can just shoot them or shoot the Apothecary at them as they're standing still, and boom, you can then move your flag from location to location. The flag step isn't too hard, but I've seen people say, okay, well, I'm not going to use the Apothecary or Fear in Headlights, let's make this a challenge, let's just use our weapons. And it's possible to do, and it was possible to do back at launch when Fear in Headlights didn't even exist, since it's of course a DLC Gobblegum. So people just utilize their pack-a-punch weapons, maybe some variant ammo type, and maybe even the Apothecary Servant if they wanted to. But this step is possible to beat without the Apothecary and without Fear in Headlights, but as you'll see in pretty much every gameplay now, from this point on, everyone's going to use the Apothecary and the Fear in Headlights Gobblegum. So you essentially have to move the flag twice per location. Each time you finish one little spot with the flag, you'll be granted with the max ammo. That's of course not including, I think it's the last or second to last time you move the flag, you won't get a max ammo, but it's a fairly simple step, but it could be overcomplicated if your team doesn't know how to communicate well. And in doing so, you also have to shoot the Shadow Man, who will appear occasionally next to the flag. And if you don't shoot him, that'll also make you fail the step. You're going to have to go back downstairs and pick up the flag to restart the step. So after that, we're getting to the actual boss fight here on the map, which is fairly easy to do, but also could be a pain in the ass if you're playing with the wrong people. So as you'll see in this game, I'm playing with one other person, and we managed to get it done literally within like 25 seconds. I just popped a Death Machine Gobblegum to shoot the Shadow Man, but before that, you have to make sure that everybody in your lobby, even if it's just you and another person, have their upgraded swords so that you can give them to the keepers. You'll then raise the keepers to break the Shadow Man's force field, and after that, the Shadow Man is now vulnerable. You can shoot him with the Death Machine or any other weapon you have. Keep shooting him until he gets right above the table holding the summoning key. Have one other person go under there, hold square or your action button to trap the Shadow Man in the summoning key. It doesn't kill him, but it traps him inside the summoning key himself. So if you're playing with 4 people, you'll see a giant gateworm spawn in that place, indicating that you can then do the final step of this Easter egg. But if you're only playing with one other person or even just yourself, then this giant gateworm will not spawn. I put gameplay on screen of both me and a friend beating this, along with me and a group of 4 beating this Easter egg as well. But after successfully trapping the Shadow Man himself, we have the train step itself, which again is not hard at all, but when you're playing with people who don't know what they're doing or don't want to get the Easter egg done, then it's going to be impossible to complete. So with this step, you'll see unlimited Margwa spawning in, but you'll also have unlimited beast mode to go along with that. So what you have to do is essentially have 3 players go underneath 3 different train stations, shock a box, all at the same time. There's 3 different boxes, shock a box, and you have a 4th player who has to shock 3 keepers very quickly in sync with the other 3 players who are shocking their boxes, and boom, what this will do is allow a giant laser beam to go up and kill the giant parasite in the sky.
I'm so sorry, I really don't have time to explain. I have a universe to set right. Thank you, and goodbye.
Now once you can successfully complete the Shadows of Evil Easter egg, Apocalypse Averted, not only will you get a calling card, but you'll get a summoning key icon at the bottom of the map in the map selection here of Black Ops 3. So again, it's pretty fun to do. I would do this maybe a couple times with my friends, but it's not an Easter egg where I'm like, hell yeah, I want to do the Shadows Easter egg tonight. It's a somewhat decent Easter egg, not too hard, and if you're playing with the right people, could be a nice breeze for those people who actually need this Easter egg completed. But that was about it for the launch map of Black Ops 3. Now we're going to move on to a much smaller map, which also released with Black Ops 3 at launch, known as the Giant. Here we go. So here we have what is probably considered the shortest and easiest Easter egg of all time. This is Paradoxical Prologue, a revised version of the Fly Trap Easter egg here on the Giant, coming in at number 11 with, like I said, the shortest Easter egg ever. All you have to do is earn the specialist weapon here on this map, which is the Annihilator Pistol, as we've also seen within Black Ops 3 multiplayer. So all you have to do is shoot the following objects with a Pack-a-Punch weapon, and as you do this, Ludwig Maxa speaks in place of Samantha. So there are 3 hidden objects, and they're in different places. We have a symbol monkey in the incinerator under teleporter A. We also have, to the right of the power switch, a teddy bear on top of the tallest balcony. And we also have a teddy bear in a full well of water beside teleporter B, the one on the left as the player enters the room. So once again, take a Pack-a-Punch weapon, shoot that switch outside the map, and you can then go and shoot these 3 hidden objects around the map. It is that simple. So what I would even say to you guys is, start up a game with a Giant, turn on the power, use a gobble gun to just get a Pack-a-Punch weapon off the wall, wall power or crate power if you're getting something from the box, and just do this straight away. It's that simple. Once you shoot all these objects, Maxis will say, I see it, the beacon is lit, I know where and when you are. Sooner or later, I will find you. Together, we will ensure a better future for the children. Players can now head to the furnace, where the Annihilator revolver can be picked up and used by any player as a special weapon. So yes, it's that simple, and to me this map is pretty important storyline wise, since this really indicates that Maxis was looking for us, and this map is sort of similar to the Black Ops 2 maps where you're kind of activating a tower in order to give someone control or power. Except in the Giant, you're giving Maxis an idea of where exactly you are, what timeline, what year, shit like that. So it's pretty cool to get to do this on a small map like the Giant. Once again, this was a DLC map featured, a part of the Season Pass bonuses for Black Ops 3 as a whole. And that's about it for the Giant. Moving on to DLC 1 of Black Ops 3, one of my favorite maps of all time, known as the Eisendrache. Here we go.
I'm a sucker for medieval castles. That's where we're going in Eisendrache.
So if you guys thought that Richtofen 1.0's death was the only death we would see within Black Ops 3, then here you go. We're on a wild ride for the DLC season of Black Ops 3 Zombies. Starting off here at number 12 with My Brother's Keeper, the hidden trophy slash achievement here on Eisendrache, my favorite zombies map here within Black Ops 3. So this main Easter egg requires the players to erase the original Tank Dempsey, aka Dempsey 1.0. It also requires you to continue with Richtofen's plan, purging Group 935 and Dr. Groff, as well as blowing up Griffin Station and the moon itself. Much like the Origins Easter egg, where it's entirely possible to do this on solo or with up to 4 players. And just like Origins, where we have 4 stabs, we have 4 ancient bows here on Eisendrache. So I'm not sure how else Treyarch could ever do this kind of concept with 4 wonder weapons on the map. It worked with Origins and definitely worked with Eisendrache, but I'm not sure how else they can make this work in a future Zombies installment. But this map is just beautiful. The atmosphere is just wonderful. It was a fantastic way to open up the DLC season for Black Ops 3 Zombies players. You know, the Easter egg isn't that hard to do, but definitely also requires some patience and some knowledge, just like you needed on Origins, where you have to know how to build and upgrade your stabs, know what to do next, know what to do in sync, so on and so forth. So again, the map does operate a little similar to Mob of the Dead in the sense that you could fill up 3 dragon heads, and after doing so, you'll be granted with the Wrath of the Ancient's bow. It's a basic bow, anybody can get it. It's nothing special, but it's definitely pretty powerful on some of the lower rounds. But again, one of the Easter egg steps, step number 1, is of course to obtain the Wrath of the Ancients by filling up the dragon heads. And on Mob of the Dead, it was a little similar in a way where you fill up the 3 dog heads and you'll be granted with the Hell's Retriever. So I see where Blundell kind of looked at it as like, hey, let's do this one more time just for the sake of it. We know fans love this, let's try it one more time. He did mention on Zombros and other interviews as well, he doesn't want to reuse gameplay mechanics like that all the time. So if he does it once, it's fine, but to do it more than once will get a little repetitive. But after obtaining the Wrath of the Ancients, you can then choose which bow you want to upgrade. So again, if you're playing on solo, you can do this Easter egg completely by yourself. But if you're playing with, let's say, 2 or 3 people and not the usual 4, then make sure your game is set to a rank so that it's not required that you build and upgrade every single bow. By the time you upgrade all 4 bows with 4 people, I would say it could be around, maybe around 9 to 13, depending on how fast you guys operate with the gobblegums you're using. But if you move fairly quickly enough, then you can be ready by like round 8 to start the next step. But again, play it safe. Don't always rush this like you would with Origins, because things could go wrong. We have the Panzer boss here on this map, but luckily we have a new specialist, as we do with every Black Ops 3 DLC map, and this time we have the Ragnarok DG4, similar to the Gravity Spike specialist on multiplayer. You can slam zombies with it, or you can place it down as a trap, and you can cause zombies to be lifted into the air with the electricity that the Ragnarok DG4 has. But after all 4 bows have been successfully upgraded, you can then shoot the beacon. So this is a little confusing, but what you have to do is, after upgrading your ancient bow, you have to put that upgraded bow back and pick up the original bow back upstairs in the tomb once again, and then you have to go into the teleporter room and shoot the beacons / rods at the top of the teleporter. So the player needs to shoot each rod so that its end turns orange after you shoot it. Once the player lights all of them up, the orange glow will disappear, and the player will be able to move on to the next step, which is shooting the wisp. So after you shot all the rods on the teleporter, random objects around the map could possibly be sparking. So there's only a certain number of objects that could ever spark on this map. It's just a matter of the order that it sparks in every single match that you play. So only one object will be sparking at a time, and the player will hear a cue, the Margwa growling, before it starts to spark, and shoot the sparking object with any upgraded ancient bow, and it will stop sparking. But shooting with anything else will result in instant failure, and the player will hear another cue and have to repeat this process during the next round. So keep in mind that after the first try, the process will automatically start at the beginning of each next round until this step has been completed. After 4 sparking objects have been shot here on the map in the same round, the player will hear a different cue indicating that they have completed this step. If the player takes too long or messes up, they will also hear a failure cue, which resets progress on the step and is unable to be resumed until the next round. So I'll probably put some locations on screen, but you'll definitely see quite a few here in the gameplay. I'll probably throw in maybe 2 or 3 different combinations of wisp locations that I found here in the Eisendrache. Again, the locations are all the same. It's just a matter of the order that the spark goes through every single match of the Eisendrache. But after shooting all 4 sparks, and keep in mind you're going to need a crawler for this step, or at least 2 people or 3 running around the map at the same time looking for it while one person watches the last zombie, or whatever the hell you have to do. If you're doing this on solo, make sure you have a crawler while you run around, or have him follow you while you do this. Just make sure you don't kill him with your upgraded bow. So after all 4 wisps have been shot, you can now time travel, a super cool step here on the Eisendrache. So you have to return to the teleporter room, and the bottom light of the teleporter should now be purple, and all players in the game must be in the teleporter in order to teleport. So once the player teleports, they will now be in the same room, but it will be cleaned up and obviously in the past. The player cannot use their weapons or equipment, and you'll see Dr. Groff talking to Richtofen over radio and accessing his safe, and here the player must do 3 things before they can teleport back. Hold the action button to pick up the glowing blue canister in the corner of the room near Dr. Groff. You then hold the action button to pick up the fuses to the right of the teleporter, or left if the player is looking directly at the teleporter, on top of the box. Then you have to remember the 3 symbols that appear on the vault after Dr. Groff locks it. So you're going to have to pay attention very carefully to this combination, and the combination will be different every single match that you play. It'll always reset, but just pay attention to what the combination was. You're going to use that in a little bit, and after that you'll be teleported back to the present, which to me is a super cool little Easter egg step. You know, we saw some time travel in Barry when we went to Round Infinity on the Richtofen side of the Easter eggs, and I thought that was really interesting. So I'm glad that they kind of introduced time travel a little bit more here with this step on der Eisendrache. But after this, we're on step 5, the Death Ray and cracking the code step. So once you get back to the present, all you have to do is interact with the Death Ray on the side facing away from the clock tower to add a fuse to the side. That fuse is the same fuse you picked up back in the past. Then go to the other side and pull the lever to switch the Death Ray from destroy to protect. The Death Ray must be turned on at least once in the game in order to proceed with the next step. Afterwards, head to the terminal near the clock tower, enter the 3 symbols from the safe that you saw in the past that you now memorized, in order from top to bottom. This will open the safe across from the teleporter, the same safe seen in the past. So go back downstairs in the teleporter room, and that safe that was locked in the past should now be open. Pick up the 2 fuses and the key card and insert each fuse into the Tesla coils on either side of the death ray. You can then return the death ray to destroy mode, and you can now head to the terminals outside of the clock tower or on the rocket pad and interact with them. So this is where you can play Simon Says. So the 4 symbols on the bottom screens will show for a couple of seconds before disappearing. You then have to memorize the symbol's location so that when the top screen shows you a symbol, the player must interact with the screen correlated to that symbol. So it's very, very easy, but at this point you're going to have unlimited hellhounds spawning in. So make sure you have a guy behind you watching your ass, killing those dogs when you play this game as Simon Says. If not, place your DG4s down behind you, or keep shooting your bow as you're putting in the combination if you're playing on solo. It's a fairly simple step, just as Samantha Says was on the moon map. But you have to play Simon Says at this location along with the other computer terminal on the rocket pad down by the launch site, and once you play Simon Says at both locations and successfully beat it, you'll then see 2 lights that are super bright next to the death ray machine, and this is where we get to the sabotage step. So the orbs atop the Tesla coils will now be glowing. Interact with the green button on the back of the death ray to initiate the rocket crash. A rocket will appear in the sky and fly across until striking the bell tower, destroying the bell, and landing in the courtyard below. Dr. Groff will express his anger and lock down the cryogenically frozen tank Dempsey with a lightning barrier, prohibiting the player from interacting with it. If they touch the chamber, they will be electrocuted. But here we go, we're on step number 8, purification and the return of the MPD. So look around at the crash site and you'll see the golden rod, the famous golden rod, ancient item that we had back on Call of the Dead, Shangri-La, and Moon. It'll now be sitting right there in the snow. You can pick it up, and afterwards the player can then teleport back in time again by repeating the spark step, aka the wisp, here on Der Eisendrache. So after you successfully have crashed Dempsey down and he's then sitting in the snow, the wisp step will begin to activate again, and you can do it just as you did earlier. Just find those wisp locations, shoot it with the upgraded bow, and boom, you'll then get the prompt to enter the teleporter again, in which you can time travel. So after doing the wisp step, and once you go back to the past again, you can hold the action button on the book, as you'll see in this room, aka the Chronorium, that is sat in a crate on the right side of the room. A case in the doorway will open, revealing a stone tablet with the Keeper symbol etched into it. Pick it up with the action button and wait to teleport back. Now you can place the golden rod in the slot on the side of the tomb, right by the Wrath of the Ancient's bow, and a ghostly keeper will rise out of the tomb. He will start traveling around the map and stop at 4 separate locations. And also note that when he stops by double tap 2, the player will need to interact with the part of the wall to the right of the keeper and under the lamppost to place that stone you picked up in the time travel mode. So after that, it's just a matter of finding out which bow you'll need per the 4 stops he makes here around the map. So let's say a white circle appears under the location here by the launch site, or I should say the crash site where Dempsey is, and the color on your screen is purple. You have to use the void bow and collect souls in that circle, and as all 4 players stand in the circle becomes larger, meaning that you have more space to kind of walk around and get your souls. But if you have 1 person in the circle will be pretty small, where that person's gonna have to stand still, just keep spamming his bow, killing zombies, killing panzers. Dogs do not count. But again, move on to the next location as the keeper moves. Stand in the white circle, see what color it is. If it's red, use your fire bow. If it's dark blue, lightning bow. And if it's light blue, it's the wolf bow. And it's fairly simple. All you have to do is just stand in it, get kills, and once you've done that at all 4 locations, the keeper will then be happy. You'll see that he gets filled with colors. It looks like a real keeper from Shadows of Evil. He'll then travel to the Undercroft, and the keeper will teleport to the moon, indicating by firing lasers in 4 directions. After a brief audio cutscene, during which all zombies despawn, the keeper will teleport the MPD from the moon.
My God. Attention all stations! We have a security breach! We have a keeper manifestation within the vicinity! The MPD is under threat! Don't go any closer!
we unleashed?
One should notice that the MPD has blue canisters in each corner, except from one corner. So you gotta place a soul canister you picked up earlier from the past into that corner that it's missing from, and after that, you'll reveal the same keeper was now being corrupted by the MPD. And now once everybody is ready, you have all your ammo, you have your shield, you have your gobblegums, you have near-death experience, you have head drama, you can then place your Ragnarok DG4 specialist on each of the 4 blue squares surrounding the MPD, and the player will be teleported into a new room. Here is the best boss fight that Treyarch's ever done in their time making zombies. Even though they've only done it a handful of times here in Black Ops 3, this has to be the best boss fight, which just gets my nerves going every single time I do it. You know, my hairs spike up on my arm, I get goosebumps. It's a really fun boss fight to do, and definitely was super challenging when I first did it. I was like, what the fuck do you have to do? A lot of people were just confused about it, having to fail and restart multiple times, but finally we understood, okay, you're essentially running in circles here on this boss fight, and there'll be a certain point where you see a ball of electricity in the center in which you have to place your DG4s on so that you can trap the giant keeper who you have to face, and as he's trapped you can just shoot his golden logo in the center of his chest. And the boss itself has 5 phases which differ from each other in terms of difficulty. You'll see a whole bunch of skeleton zombies coming at you. You have panzers, so much different shit, and there's plenty of strategies to beat this in a very quick amount of time. What I would say, and I've just done it recently, is get a pack-a-punch XM53. Even though it's recommended to shoot your bow at the actual boss, which is what I did back in the day when I first played this, the XM53 beats the shit out of him so much faster. So I would run in here with mule kit. I would have a damn haymaker for the panzers, my bow for the skeletons, and an XM53 pack-a-punch for the giant keeper boss. Again, this could be very challenging if you don't know what you're doing. If you have near death, if you have head drama, you're going to be able to take out the panzers and the skeletons very, very quickly. But as you trap the keeper each time, placing your DG4s down, you can then shoot right at his chest, and you'll know that you beat him correctly if he sort of gets stunned and drops a max ammo. If he doesn't drop a max ammo, or he just teleports away, then you know you didn't beat him that time, and you have to try again towards your next phase of the boss fight. But after shooting the shit out of this keeper, starts spinning in circles, indicating that he just got his ass fucked, and boom, the screen will turn white. The players will be returned to their Eisendrache as we all know it, and you'll see the MPD right in front of you as Dr. Groth expresses his anger and vows to destroy Group 935, even if he has to go as far as destroying the entire castle. So on one side of the MPD, you'll see a glowing blue circle with a shape at the top of it that looks like the Vril generator from earlier. You'll press the action button and boom, the summoning key will appear in its place. You can then press the action button again to pick up the summoning key, and Richtofen will then explain that the player needs to charge the key in order to free the test subject. So you can take the key to the terminal, which you played, Simon Says That earlier, next to the clock tower, and interact with the terminal itself. At this point, multiple rockets will be blasted at the moon, causing the destruction of the moon itself, killing Dr. Groth and any other Group 935 members at Griffin Station. You successfully completed
I foresaw. 2 Germans at first, but only one remains.
The road is long and dark, but I know where we are going.
The My Brother's Keeper Easter egg here on the Eisendrache. The ending just feels so fulfilling, just as the ending did on the map Moon. Blowing up the Earth and just seeing Maxis' endgame come out into play, and also seeing Richtofen essentially win in a way on Moon was just really interesting. But here in the Eisendrache, you went through a series of steps with 4 badass bows, beat a giant boss, traveled back in time, heard information from a character that we haven't really heard from in a while, which is Dr. Groth. Then you send rockets to the moon, killing him and the beloved Griffin Station. So that means that moons cannot exist in this universe. We just cannot have gameplay on a map like Griffin Station in the Eisendrache universe. We just blew the shit out of the moon itself. We then have a beautifully rendered cutscene that shows the end of Dempsey 1.0. So although I can't show you the cutscene because of copyright reasons, you guys all know that after watching the cutscene, you'll get the achievement known as My Brother's Keeper, you'll get the XP reward titled Frozen Freedom, and you'll of course receive every perk available on the map, which to me is a pretty interesting reward, but on Black Ops 3 it's a little redundant since you have goblins like Perkaholic, but once again, this has to have been one of the most beautiful Easter eggs across any Call of Duty Zombies experience. That's just going from Black Ops 1 to Advanced Warfare to Infinite Warfare. This has to be one of the best Easter eggs of all time, and it's certainly one that I would say, hey guys, you want to just do the Eisendrache Easter egg tonight for fun? I would certainly do this every single night. It's one of the most exciting and engaging Easter eggs that Treyarch's ever come up with. Hopefully they take inspiration from this Easter egg into the Easter eggs they feature in the next Zombies experience. But let's move on to DLC 2 here for Black Ops 3, introducing us to the Zombie Island, Zetsubou no Shima. Coming in at number 13, we have Seeds of Doubt here on Zetsubou no Shima, forcing players to save the original Takeo Masaki, aka Takeo 1.0, and just like the Easter eggs on Origins and the Eisendrache, you could do this on solo. But there's of course a catch. The map itself sometimes plays like shit, and I've said this before, the map has a beautiful atmosphere, introduces us to some really cool and exciting gameplay mechanics with the water and the plants. We have a pretty interesting wonder weapon known as the KT-4, which could be upgraded through a series of steps. We have one of the best specialist weapons of all time, known as the Skull-on Softway, which is great for high rounds and great for your Easter egg runs, but there's just something about this map that just wasn't developed correctly. It's just the stability of the map just doesn't flow well sometimes. I've been in games where some of the steps glitch out, we just get thrown across the map somehow, we enter the spider bait Easter egg and get thrown above the map, killing all of us instantly. I've had so many weird bugs that hopefully I can put on screen for you guys that sort of ruined my experience on Zetsubou when it first came out. And the funny thing is that when this map came out, YouTubers bashed it to shit. Now I do believe that with time, people will come to appreciate this map a lot more, similar to Tranzit, so I guess you could say that this is kind of the Tranzit of Black Ops 3, of course, with much more development time and focus, and a lot of storyline and Easter eggs, but it just wasn't finished properly, and I think, as Blundell said before, Zombies Chronicles, aka DLC 5, was confirmed with the dev team at the time of DLC 2 coming out, so you could imagine that, okay, everybody in the dev team is very excited to be remastering old zombie maps, doing this, doing that, to the point where it kind of draws away from the core development on DLC 2, aka Zetsubou no Shima, or it was just simply a error with the code of the map itself. You know, they could have had some great development time for this map and it just didn't work out correctly, and they were on a schedule, a tight-ass schedule, to also come up with DLC 5 maps, start working on DLC 3, which is a massive map, and so on. So they had a lot to work with, and maybe they just didn't have enough time to polish up some of those rough edges that they knew were present on Zetsubou, but unfortunately just had to release for the community since the map itself had a release date under Activision's rules. So again, the map Zetsubou has a lot of new content. We have a gas mask, which is a buildable. We also have the return of the normal zombie shield as we saw back in Origins and the Eisendrache. And I think with the fact that this zombie shield isn't a rocket shield, sort of takes away from it since we're used to the rocket shield on the Eisendrache, but once again, it kind of has that Origins feeling to it where it's just a basic shield. You can slam zombies with it or just have it on your back for protection. You can't place it down, unfortunately, as you used to be able to on Origins within Black Ops 2. And the whole bucket system on this map with the plants and everything, it's very cool, but what I could tell you is that a lot of core, or I should say hardcore zombie players, were disappointed by this new mechanics, since it felt like in order to turn on the power, get the Easter egg going, you had to do a lot of different shit, which felt kind of tedious, similar to Origins in a way, and it just didn't feel as fun as maps like Mob of the Dead or the Eisendrache. But once again, I'm a huge Zombies fan. I was able to accept Treyarch's faults for the somewhat shitty development on this map, which kind of turned a lot of people off, but for me, just kept me going. I kept enjoying the Easter eggs on this map, went through trying to look for new shit. I enjoyed the Spider Bay Easter egg, which I'll talk about later, and it's just a pretty cool map to play all together. I don't mind doing this Easter egg, it's not that tedious. I would say Gorod has a much better Easter egg, but it's so much more tedious and kind of turns me off from wanting to do it every now and then. So the first step here on Zetsubou is revealing the elevator shaft blueprint. So once you've obtained the Skull Non-Stopway Specialist weapon, you have to go down to the living quarters in the bunker, go over to where the purple water is at, and using the skull, you must mesmerize a piece of paper on the wall across from the purple water. This will now allow players to remove secret walls and doors hidden on the map. So after doing this step, I just can't imagine if there's maybe a couple of other Easter eggs or hidden secrets on the map that could be opened up with mesmerizing through the Skull Non-Stopway. But as of right now, there aren't any more hidden Easter eggs on this map aside from the ones we already found for the main Easter egg. But who knows, maybe in the future they'll kind of adapt, you know, similar features like this where they hide things across certain Easter egg steps, maybe in the future. But as of right now, I think we solved pretty much everything here in game. So the second step is unlocking the generator room. So across from the door leading to the anti-aircraft platform is a door which can be opened using the Skull Non-Stopway, and the players must mesmerize the door, which will disappear, revealing a generator behind it. So the next step is kind of in multiple parts. You have to collect a couple of different cogs. The first one is through using the Anywhere But Here Gobblegum, leading to a secret room above Lab A. So I believe when you do steps 1 and 2 is when you can then trigger the cogs to spawn on the map, along with the ability to use Anywhere But Here into teleporting to that secret room above Lab A. So once again, this is honestly just asking for failure, okay? I've been in games with people who all thought that at least one person had Anywhere But Here, but unfortunately nobody had it. So we had to restart the game with somebody using Anywhere But Here, and we had to do everything all over again, getting up to this step where we have to get the first cog here on the map. But honestly, Treyarch shouldn't restrict certain Easter egg steps to a somewhat near useless gobblegum. You know, Anywhere But Here could be kind of useful at certain times when you're getting stuck in a train or something, you want to pop it and go somewhere else, but it's just such a weird gobblegum to require for this kind of Easter egg. You know, I'd imagine them doing something where you use a skull to maybe reveal a secret door, or some type of like zip line that's only could be unlocked with the Skull Non-Stopway, then you can get to the secret room, something like that. Not something that's so fucking discreet like this gobblegum step. But once you use Anywhere But Here, you go to the secret room and find the cog on the floor. You can pick it up and exit this room either through the hole or by using Anywhere But Here once again. And a common misconception with the step is that you have to beat the giant spider boss before doing this, and that's not true. You can do that later. So cog number 2 is actually fairly simple to get. All you have to do is have a bucket and at least one seed. You have to plant the seed and water the plant with blue water and shoot it with the KT-4 3 rounds in a row. So once you do that, once the plant is fully grown, opening the pod will reveal a flak shell, but it's also not guaranteed, which we'll talk about in a second, and this could be inserted in the Flak 88 cannon at the anti-aircraft platform. This is a huge step, and the players can use the KT-4 to fertilize the plant, which may increase the chance of getting the shell. So once again, all plants on this map are not guaranteed when you plant it with certain water or certain seeds. You have to do this, I would say, maybe 4 to 6 times before actually getting the bullet out the ground. So I would say is once you actually build the KT-4 itself, if you have 3 seeds and your partner has 3 seeds or somebody else has 2, everybody just plant a seed in one spot and have the one person with the KT-4 go around to each seed for 3 rounds straight and shoot it so that it fertilizes it as you water with the blue water. So by the time you pass through 3 or 4 rounds, you'll have maybe, what, 6 seeds to go and look at, and you'll see hopefully out of all 6 of the plants that come out, you'll get the bullet from one of them. So it's a giant bullet, you can't miss it, but again, nothing is guaranteed, so don't just put one seed in the ground thinking you're going to get the bullet straight away. Using the upgraded KT-4 can also help with this, I believe. It's not confirmed, but I do believe so, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. Cog number 3 does require quite a bit of work, but all you have to really do is make sure that all the players present in the game have done all their trials/challenges. Similar to the challenges we had back on Origins, we have a little group of trials here on Zetsubou. Each player, of course, has 3. They are different every single game that you play. In the center of the map where the skulls can be found for the beginning rituals is where you can actually read which trials you have. They can be anything from get kills underwater to water a plant 3 times, kill a zombie before it becomes enraged. Little shit like that isn't too hard. Once everyone has all their trials completed, lightning will strike the platform periodically, and what you have to do is equip the zombie shield while standing on the platform as the lightning strikes your shield, and after that you'll see the electricity sticks onto your shield and you essentially have a lightning shield. You can also get an achievement by slapping a zombie with your electric shield, just to let you know. But you have to take your electric shield over near Lab A by the docks, and in co-op, someone has to take the zip line while the other person who has an electric shield hits the panel on either end of the zipline, making whoever is on the zipline fall off. If the player successfully lands on the dock, the gear will be there to pick up. In solo, the player must shock the zipline control panel at either end, Lab A or the docks, and proceed to use the zipline. When the player is over the dock, the player must press the melee button, which will cause the player to drop onto the dock. So this is honestly a step that's asking for memes, asking for rage quit videos, asking for some crazy funny moments here in Zombies. So you have to be very careful on co-op. Make sure that as the player is going down the zip line, you watch to make sure that he's directly above the docks, so you can hit the panel with your electric shield, causing him to fall. If you do that way too early, he'll just fall to his death, lose everything, and have to wait till the next round to start it all over again. Keep in mind, if you're on a high round and you just killed your friend, then you're going to have to take some time to set him up again the next round and make sure that you can try the step again. But watching his back and watching him get set up could eventually lead to your death, so make sure you're not on too high of a round when you try this step. I only failed this step maybe once or twice when the map first came out, and unfortunately one of my friends fell to his death as I hit the panel too early, and it just was a nightmare from that point on. We had to restart the game and try again later. But next up, we're getting on to activating the secret elevator and clearing the vines. So before we can do all that, you have to make sure that you shot the plane down to gain access to the cog that flies down from the wrecked plane. And after that, you have to make sure you have an upgraded KT-4. So again, this Easter egg is not about just collecting cogs. You have to do a couple of things first. You have to get your trials done, your electric shield, upgrade your wonder weapon. So with upgrading the KT-4, it's not too difficult. All you have to do is collect 3 different items in which you can build on a table that's actually next to the original buildable table for the KT-4. So the first part is the spider tooth that could be acquired by killing the giant spider boss near the blue water. So you'll see a set of blue webs by the blue water. You shoot that with your normal KT-4, and you and your team can then enter the cave to face the giant spider. It's not that hard to beat. Again, he just kind of attacks you a little bit with his legs, but you could avoid those attacks and avoid his little spider babies that come out by shooting it with your KT-4, using your skull or your pack-a-punch weapon. I would say go in there with double tap, MX Grand, pack-a-punch, shoot the shit out of the spider and he'll die fairly quickly. You can even use the KT-4 as well for some extra damage on him. It's not that hard of a little boss fight, but it's pretty cool to do. Once you kill him, he'll fall over and you can take a tooth right out of his mouth. As you're exiting the cave, you'll of course see a pool of Widow's Wine, which you can just drink and it'll give you the perk. It's pretty cool if you don't have Perkaholic, if you don't have Widow's Wine on you at the time of beating the giant spider boss. After that, you have to collect a blue vial for this upgraded KT-4, and by doing so, you just have to go back to the platform where the trials are, let your shield get struck by lightning, and take a walk over to Lab B. You'll see another platform in Lab B that's very similar to the one at Lab A, which allows you to trap a spider, gaining access to that part you needed for the original KT-4, but this time the player himself or herself is going to go into this platform and go underground. So have a player hit that panel with your electric shield, have one player go inside, and the other player will hold action on the panel itself, sending the other player underground, where you'll see a skeleton that has a blue vial in his rib cage. You can then pick up that blue vial using the action button, and hopefully the other player at Lab B is still alive to where he can lift you back up. I believe there's a time limit for being under here, so even if the other player doesn't hold action to lift you back up, I think you will get sent back up automatically after like 45 seconds or so. But once the other player lifts you back up, boom, you now have the second part to the upgraded KT-4. The next part does require a series of 3 rounds to be completed, and by doing so, you have to go all the way underwater where you picked up the original plant for the original KT-4, and you'll see a hidden panel right next to where that plant was. You can mesmerize using the skull and stopway, and you'll see a little underground passage that opens up. It's still underwater, but it's a secret passageway where you see a place where you can plant a seed. And when you plant the seed, you have to use the special rainbow water. And here's how a player gets rainbow water. So when exiting the underground laboratory through the valve, if you hold square at a very specific point in time, you'll be able to gain access to rainbow water here on the map. So it's nothing too special, but is required for this Easter egg step. If you plant a normal seed outside the map with rainbow water, nothing special will happen. It's just a combination of the blue, green, and purple water. But for this specific step, you need rainbow water in particular. So you're gonna have to plant one seed here in this underground passageway, and then you can plant your seed with the rainbow water together, and boom, you just have to wait 3 rounds as usual with any other plant, and you'll see what it turns out to be. Make sure you have anywhere but here when you're underwater so you don't end up drowning, or you see a bubble, you can knife it so you can actually breathe. Make sure you don't die at this part, or else everything you just did will be pointless. So after 3 rounds, you can then go pick up this special rainbow plant, which is actually the 3rd and final part / component for the upgraded KT4, known as the Mass Immune. So now you can go back to the underground laboratory near the original KT4 workbench, and you'll see an upgraded KT4 Mass Immune workbench where you can put the 3 parts you just collected right in there, and boom, you have an upgraded KT4 with stronger damage, quicker speeds of reloading, and just more stability when you're running around the map. You get your secret, what I call flashlight powers, because there'll be times when you shoot the KT4 down when it's in its upgraded form, and you can actually run a little bit faster and gain some momentum by doing so. So the upgraded KT4 is great for high rounds, but it's definitely a necessity for the ending of this Easter egg. So by this point, you should have every single cog placed in the elevator shaft, which means you can now go down to the secret room here on Zetsubou. So you're activating the secret elevator and clearing the vines. So once you're down in the secret room, you'll then see a bunch of vines all over the place, and the only way to get rid of these vines is by shooting the upgraded KT4 right at them. And also keep in mind, you're going to need a gas mask to survive under here, because there's no other way of surviving the toxic fumes in this secret room without one. I've been in a game where all of us went down because we forgot you needed a gas mask and we had to restart all over again, but that's just a mistake that beginners should be making here on Zetsubou no Shima. So what you'll have to do is just wait for this giant thrasher to use a slam attack on the enemy players to the point where little spores appear on the actual arms themselves. So what you'll do is take the upgraded KT4 and shoot at those spores on the giant thrasher's arms, and it'll hurt him. It'll essentially break his arm off, and he'll do this attack 4 different times, so you'll be shooting 4 different spores here with your upgraded KT4. But in the meantime, as I said, you have a crazy amount of thrashers, spiders, and zombies coming at you at the same time. So in a way, the difficulty isn't as crazy as it was as a Eisendrache boss battle, but at the same time, the amount of enemies that come at you is fairly similar, but the difficulty of the boss himself is what gets me. They could have done so much more with this boss fight here on Zetsubou, or at least make it 2 parts, similar to the one we have on Gorod. And I'm pretty sure they made the Gorod boss fight a lot harder because they knew that fans weren't as impressed with what we got here on Zetsubou no Shima. But again, at this time of development, I'm pretty sure they were busy handling the plans for DLC 5, aka Zombies Chronicles, so they didn't put too much time into developing a nice Easter egg here on Zetsubou. There's just so much they could have done differently, in my opinion. It could have been a longer Easter egg, much more vivid steps, and steps that make sense. As I said before in the Eisendrache, there are steps on the map that literally make sense. You're traveling back to the past, figuring out Dr. Groff's code for his safe, opening that safe in order to activate the death ray, and then bringing Dempsey down. And after that, you have to charge a keeper, you have to corrupt him, then you can blow up the moon after killing the giant keeper. So those steps make sense. It doesn't really make sense to go around on this crazy big island looking for cogs for a specific elevator shaft in order to go and face a fairly easy boss. So again, the boss himself here on Zetsubou is super easy to kill. It's just the amount of thrashers and zombies that come at you is what makes it a little bit challenging. But I've never personally failed this Easter egg before, and not many people have either because it's that easy to beat, but it's just not as fun and engaging. I don't get goosebumps from doing this Easter egg like I do with the Eisendrache boss. So once again, hopefully they take this as inspiration for their next Call of Duty Zombies title so they can make better boss fights, more vivid Easter egg steps, and just Easter egg steps that make sense, as I said. Stuff that makes you say, oh, okay, I get this about the story now. I understand this about this character now. Shit like that really makes a difference for a zombie map. But after you successfully killed the giant thrasher boss, or I should say somewhat defeated him in a way, Takeo will then mutate back to his original form, and a giant cutscene will then play. It's a pretty nice cutscene. Takeo 2.0 is asked by Takeo 1.0 to be his Hashakunin, which means he will then essentially sacrifice himself while Takeo 2.0 finishes him off so that he doesn't have to deal with the pain of stabbing himself with a big ass sword. So I'm really surprised that the actual katana that Takeo always uses isn't necessarily a weapon to use here on Zetsubou, and it's actually a weapon to use on Revelations as part of the Super Easter egg as well. You know, it's Takeo's katana. We've always wanted to use it, so why not have it as a usable weapon here on Takeo's specific zombie map here in Black Ops 3? I just don't know the reason why they didn't do that. Maybe it wasn't ready at the time, but Altogether, all you get for doing this Easter egg is all the perks once again, but you do get a pretty cool addition to the storyline. You know, you see the characters coming out of a portal right after the cutscene, which means they actually travel to Mob of the Dead, the physical Alcatraz Island, to collect the blood vials from the prisoners in order to remain in the loop. So it gets cleared up a little bit more later in Revelations, but as we know in the zombies timeline, they got the blood vials right after the events of Zetsubou in order to remain here in this crazy ass fucked up loop, so that at the very end of Revelations, when they close off all the loops, they could remain intact, still surviving, even though they should be erased from existence. So that's about it for Zetsubou no Shima. You know, it utilizes the summoning key a little bit. You have some pretty cool new gameplay mechanics on the map itself. The atmosphere is great, you know, a zombie island, essentially like a Left 4 Dead kind of feel. It's a really cool idea. It just wasn't executed in the best way that it possibly could have been. You know, I think a lot of resources weren't devoted to developing this map. I think there's a lot of issues with the map that really could have been fixed at launch. I think if more time could have been put into this map, similar to a map like Tranzit, to bring a better Easter egg, better wonder weapon, and better gameplay mechanics altogether, then the map would have been a lot more polished and really would have felt like a fan favorite. Who knows, maybe one day the community will appreciate this map much more than they did within the DLC season. But that's about it. Let's jump on to DLC 3, which actually had a pretty interesting release since there was a big drought in between the release of DLC 2 and DLC 3. So people were really wondering, where's Treyarch taking us next here on this massive journey to close off all the loops here in Zombies history? And that's, of course, going to be Stalingrad. Gorod Krovi.
Holy shit, that was close. Other Nikolai seems pretty pissed.
Now we have number 14, a beloved zombies map that takes place in a very unique setting that a lot of people wanted to see zombies take place in. This is Stalingrad, where we have the beloved map Gorod Krovi with the Love and War hidden Easter egg achievement here for Black Ops 3, requiring players to free the original Nikolai Belinsky, aka Nikolai 1.0. And just like Origins, the Eisendrache, and Zetsubou, it is entirely possible to complete this Easter egg on solo. So this is probably the most tedious Easter egg here in Black Ops 3. And in my opinion, if this was DLC 4, this would have been the best way to close off Black Ops 3 Zombies for the season. But of course, it is not DLC 4, it's only DLC 3. It has been a long time since the release of DLC 2, I would say maybe about 2.5 to 3.5 months. People were just begging for new content. Where is Treyarch taking us? Where are they taking us? Are we going to be killing Nikolai in this DLC? Are we going to be doing something different? We just didn't know what to expect, because honestly, when the DLC season was announced for Black Ops 3, I thought they were going to do a similar approach as they did with Black Ops 1 and 2, which is to take maybe 1 or 2 of the maps out of the season and do something completely different. You know, Black Ops 2, we had the trilogy with the Tranzit crew. We had Tranzit, Die, Rise, and Buried. We had a little break in between. We had Mob of the Dead for DLC 2. Then we had Origins for DLC 4. 2 maps that were unrelated to the Victus crew, but still, of course, play an important role in Zombies history. But with Black Ops 3, we didn't take that approach. The only map that features a different crew is Shadows of Evil. But the one thing that's kind of disappointing is that you're kind of doing the same thing in every map. You know, you have some great Easter eggs like the Eisendrache and Shadows, but essentially, you're doing the same thing for DLCs 1 through 3. You know, you're killing off an old version of yourself in order to close a certain loop. And you already know what to expect from the ending cutscene. It's just a matter of how to get to that cutscene. It's a little bit different between each map. So for Gorod Krovi, you have the most tedious Easter egg throughout Black Ops 3, as I said. You have quite a few things to do. So the first step is, of course, to power up the generator. So the generator can be found underneath a small green/black tarp, and from here the player needs to lure a Valkyrie drone close to the generator and destroy it. So this is, of course, following that you guys already have turned on the power on the map and collected your specific modules to activate the main power source underground. We're just getting straight into the main Easter egg since it is pretty tedious here on the map. So let's just say you have a Mark III, you have your pack-a-punch weapons, you already went to the hatchery and got all your shit together, you got your dragon strikes. Here we are activating the generator by using a Valkyrie. So by killing a Valkyrie close to the generator itself, this allows you to interact with it and the tarp covering the generator will be flowing, and an audible hum can be heard to signify that it is on. Once this step is done, take the sewer pipe back to Belinsky Square, where we can then proceed with step number 2, which is somewhat like a puzzle, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. But this step innovates on a lot of new things, and this is something that DLC 4 really didn't do. So in my opinion, DLC 5, Zombies Chronicles, kind of earned our trust back in Treyarch and their development skills, because they have a reason for what they do and why they do it. Not just with the storyline, but with gameplay as well. You know, there's obviously restrictions with the hardware and their development time that they have to restrict on how much content is featured in a new Zombies map, and I think that's kind of what happened with Revelations. But DLC 3 really innovated on a lot. We have a brand new Dragon Shield, which is super powerful and even made its return into DLC 4 Revelations. You can upgrade this Dragon Shield. We also have the Dragon Strike controller, which you have to get for this Easter egg as a part of the lockdown process. You can upgrade the Dragon Strike controller as well to have 2 Dragon Strikes per round. You can distract a whole group of zombies with it, use it as your new Monkey Bomb, similar to the G-Strikes on Origins. We also have the new Wonder Weapon, which is the Ray Gun Mark III. We were all wondering if we were going to see a new version of the Ray Gun here in Black Ops 3. Not only did we get that, which is super powerful, essentially acts similar to a Gerst device / Apothecan Servant, but we also have the Gauntlet of Siegfried's Specialist weapon, which to me is probably the most powerful specialist weapon, right next to the Skull on Sopway. I don't believe it has infinite damage with the fire attack, but with the actual punch attack, the 115 punch that it features, you can go through a whole train of zombies, kill those new Mangler bosses here on the map, kill your Valkyries instantly. It's pretty cool to use, and it's very useful for this Easter egg as well. Then we also could take a look at another weapon feature on this map, which is the PPSH. So yes, it did incorporate some DLC weapons for multiplayer here on Gorod, but first off, in the trailer, or in the reveal trailer, I should say, for Gorod, you can see the PPSH come out the box, a beloved classic weapon from games like World at War and upcoming games like World War II. A fantastic weapon that is beautiful when pack-a-punched, super powerful against your zombies, and will never let you down. But on top of all the innovation, we have a pretty sick Easter egg, which I'm pretty sure was created because of the bash that Treyarch got from the Easter egg we had on Zetsubou. The Easter egg just wasn't too hard. The steps didn't make sense. You didn't really learn that much doing those steps, and it just didn't fulfill the greatness that the Eisendrache had, or Origins, or even the damn Giant. You learn more on the Giant by doing that small-ass Annihilator Easter egg than you did from picking up a damn cog off the ground in Zetsubou. But here on Gorod, we have a pretty sick-ass Easter egg. So step number 2 requires you to interact with the valves. So there are 6 valves located around the map, and I'll put an image on screen of how to actually do this. There's no real way to explain it. You just have to essentially match a certain combination with a certain set of valves, and after that, the actual graph module that'll pop out, it's pink, it'll pop out at a specific location. You can pick up the cylinder and place it into the Sophia machine back in the Dragon Command. So once again, you learn a lot of storyline from doing this Easter egg. You get a lot of information about the Ascension protocol, Dr. Gersh, who's a classic character from Ascension, Sophia herself, who hasn't really been mentioned too much in the zombie storyline. She has major connections to Dr. Maxis. You get more information about the loop and what exactly you're doing here in Stalingrad. So once the players obtain the Master Code cylinder, the player must bring it back to Sophia. So step number 3 requires you to collect these statues / trophies in order to do these specific trials for Sophia. So around the map, there are several hidden silver trophies that can be picked up by the player. So you can pick up these trophies at any point during your game of Gorod Krovi, but it's a step after this that is required to be completed before you can actually place these trophies in the computer terminal. So once again, it's not actually the trophies that are hard to get, it's the challenges behind these trophies that could be pretty tedious to do, which is why a lot of people get turned off when hearing another one of their friends saying, oh, I gotta do the Gorod Krovi Easter egg, it's the last one I'm missing. This is a very long Easter egg, but if you know what you're doing, you're playing with some very experienced people, like I have been recently, then you can fly through this in, let's say, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. Once you press the interact button, Sophia will then talk to you, and boom, you're all set for the very next step. So you can then place all the trophies that you got into the computer terminal, and once you click the green button again with your action button, it'll just randomly select one of the trophies and it'll show you which trial you have to do for that trophy. So the trials and trophies are always the same in every game. It's just the order of which trials you have to do first that always changes. So you could have a bomb step, you could have a module step, you could have a Valkyrie step, maybe you have to escort a green-eyed mangler back to the Dragon Command. There's a lot of different things you're going to have to do for this Easter egg step. But my favorite one of all is definitely the Dr. Gersh step, which is pretty funny because you essentially work your way to freeing him in Ascension only to trap him and kill the shit out of him here in Gorod Krovi. So I'll put some gameplay of pretty much all the trophy challenges here on this map and here within this gameplay. But you know, I think this is definitely one of the most tedious Easter eggs of all time. If people say that Origins is the craziest one, I would have to argue that doing Gorod Krovi on solo could be easy to some, but very challenging to others. You know, I would just say my best word of advice is to play with people who are so skilled with this map, who know exactly how to read the bombs, tell you where to go and where to activate which bomb at. Play with people who know what they're doing and want to know what they're doing. If there's any map that I tell you guys to play with experienced people on, it's this fucking map, because it's very fun with the new gameplay mechanics and monkeys and Raygun Mark 3s, all that kind of cool shit. But steps like this, holy fuck, this will ruin your life and ruin friendships if you don't do a step like the bomb challenge correctly. So, for example, with the bomb step, on the computer screen it'll show you a series of bombs in the order you have to click each one in. If you mess up one of them, all of them will explode, and if anybody's by these bombs, they will go down. So if everybody's by a bomb and someone hits the wrong one, goodbye, game over, you're gonna have to restart again a different day or later on that night, because the step is over and you failed. So steps like that, you just have to get done right the first time. There's a lot of trial and error that could be made with some of these Easter egg steps, but the bomb step is definitely not one of them. So
wait, you look familiar. No, can't be you. From the Cosmodrome. Your faces are familiar, but different. So long.
Thank you for your cooperation, anomaly known as Gersh. Beginning information extraction.
Wait, what is happening? What are you doing? You said you would help me.
Do not be concerned with the anomaly's fate. Information extraction is a mostly painless process.
I'm sure it's fine.
A lot of different shit that gets set up for this actual main quest. So even though those steps aren't directly involved with the main Easter egg, you're still going to want to do them in order to get far here in this map and get set up completely. So this is one of those maps where Treyarch put a lot of time into making sure this Easter egg is not going to be easy to do. So if someone says, I have all the Easter eggs completed, I'm ready for Revelations, you know, you're going to question, do they have Gorod Krovi done? Because not a lot of people do. It's a pretty tough Easter egg, has a pretty tough boss battle, and you have to be with the right people in order to do it. So after you've done the first 5 trophies in any random order, you're now going to be ready for the 6th and final trophy, which doesn't have to be completed here on Gorod, but actually at the hatchery. So once you push the button on the monitor, a drawer will open up and will reveal a key card. Pick up the key card, go to the hatchery, and on the middle floor there is a terminal where the player must place the key card in. Each player in the game, it can even be on solo, must hit the action button on the terminal, and a lockdown will begin, and the key card will start the download. So during this lockdown, there's only Russian manglers that come in here on the map, and the player must defend against all of them until the download is complete. Once the download is finished, the player must bring the key card back to Sofia to finish the task and all the trophies here on the map. So again, similar to the lockdown that we did earlier for the Dragon Strike, but this time it's all Russian manglers. Could be pretty challenging if you don't have a Mark III or your specialist weapon. They do go for monkeys, but just watch your back, use your Dragon Shields or your Dragon Strikes, do everything you can to beat the shit out of these manglers, because it is a pretty challenging step. Pretty similar to one of the final steps on Origins, where you kind of have a Panzer lockdown. You have about 10 or 11 Panzers spawning at a time, except this time it's probably about 30 or 40 manglers that come in here with a lot less health than the Panzer, obviously. So
aren't you forgetting something, Sophia? What about those power cores you promised to help me locate?
Power cores provided.
Now that all tasks are done, you can interact with Sophia again, and she will give you the power core that Nikolai 1.0 has been begging for since the start of the match. Head over to Belinsky Square, launch the whelp from the Gauntlet of Siegfried towards Nikolai's mech suit, and it will drop off the core and return back to the map. Once done, return to Sophia, and this time she will detach from the machine, and before flying to the sky, she will reveal a little secret. And this secret is, of course, the little hatchery that leads into the location where Nikolai 1.0 is being kept at. So, right before leaving, she'll talk about how the loop must be closed and the paradox must be resolved. Shit like that really teases the ending of Revelations. But again, a lot of people were discouraged that a character like Sophia, who was given this major pedestal here in DLC 3, wasn't really focused on in any of the earlier maps of Black Ops 3 or even Black Ops 2. We barely heard about her in Black Ops 1 through a bunch of hidden radios and some information on the official Zombies timeline. But the timeline didn't come out until after DLC 5, so once again, you're going to have to know that Sophia is an important character. And
Ascension protocol complete. Thank you for your assistance. Also for posterity, I calculated odds of you defeating the dragon. I will not share them. They were not encouraging. I leave you now. Maxis, I must go to him. The paradox must be resolved. The loop must be closed.
Well, that's one broad I'm not gonna miss.
Treyarch really expected the community to know exactly who she was when doing these kind of steps here on Gorod. You're going to have to know that, okay, she was Maxis' lover, this and that, worked with Group 935, and really couldn't have been a casual player who's like, who the fuck is Sophia, to have really felt that quote she had at the end before she flies away into the sky about having to close the loop, because she knows the pain that Maxis is going through. She knows what the group has to do, how they have to close all the loops off, help Monty, whatever it is. So it's a pretty important part of the storyline that not a lot of people really understood at this time when Gorod came out. After that, you can go into the secret hatchery that Sophia just revealed for you guys, and boom, you'll be teleported right into the boss fight. Make sure you have your Dragon Shields, Dragon Strikes, your PPSH, MX Grands, your Dingos, your Ray Gun Mark IIIs, everything that you can possibly use, because you're about to go to war. That's exactly what this fucking boss fight is. Make sure you have your best Gobblegums so you can survive, revive your teammates. There are two parts to this big boss fight. You have the first fight with the giant dragon who fucked up Nikolai in the cutscene, the intro cutscene of this map, and you then have to face Nikolai himself within his mech suit. So once you get out to this new arena, which is actually right by the spawn room, by the way, you can then click a red button, and a giant laser beam from one of the giant robots, similar to the one on Origins, shoots at Nikolai to allow him to get free from that pile of rubble he was stuck in, and boom, he'll then assist you in defeating this giant dragon. So once again, this is a very scary boss fight, probably a little more scary than the Eisendrache one, since there's a lot more space to run around here on this fight. A lot of zombies spawn in, you can get burned by the big dragon's fire. A lot of shit can go wrong in this boss fight, just as the Keeper boss fight on the Eisendrache, but I think the Eisendrache was a lot more close quarters, a small ass circle you're running around just to kill your Keeper, so it wasn't that bad. But Gorod, holy shit, there's so much that can go wrong. You're pretty far away from your teammates if you guys are separated here and there, so watch each other's backs, stay close to each other. So here, for the first part of the fight, Nikolai 1.0 will expose a weak point on the dragon via an energy harpoon. So all players need to focus their fire upon this one spot to damage the dragon. So there'll be a couple of different spots that Nikolai hits on this giant dragon. So to defeat the dragon, the player has to shoot 3 different weak spots, one on its right wing, one on the left side of its belly, and one on its neck. If the player cannot find the weak spot, Nikolai will help them find it with several quotes, such as shoot its belly, and so on. So after causing enough damage on the first weak spot, the dragon will start attacking the players with fireballs. So during the first stage, the player will have to deal with several Russian manglers, zombies, and Valkyrie drones. When the dragon is dead, a mini cutscene will play with the player's character talking to the original Nikolai. Original Nikolai will then become hostile, and the player must now battle him as well.
You need to calm your big Russian ass down, Nikolai. The dragons, the German war machine, this whole nightmare. We can end it all today. We just need you to, stop all the craziness. Do exactly what we say.
A true Russian never surrenders.
With defeat Nikolai, the player must shoot 4 different spots on him, the 2 yellow lights on the front of the mech, and 2 yellow power cores on the top of the mech that come out when Nikolai attacks the player, mostly when deploying wraps. So yes, the wrap score streak from Black Ops 3 multiplayer is present here on the boss fight of Gorod. So if you hate them in multiplayer, you're going to hate them in this boss fight as well, because Nikolai is throwing all that shit at you at the same time while you're dealing with zombies and such. Once the player destroys the power core atop the mech, the player must focus fire on the last power core on the bottom of the mech. After the mech is destroyed, the cutscene will then play and everyone will receive the achievement and 7,500 XP. Now, although everybody was super excited with the ending of the Gorod boss fight, this is where everybody went nuts. This is the ending of the Gorod cutscene that actually reveals the name of the DLC for Zombies map, to be concluded in Revelation. So we just closed off majority of the loops here within the zombie storyline. We killed the 1.0 versions of Dr. Richtofen on the Giant, Dempsey on the Eisendrache, Kakio on Zetsubou, and now Nikolai here on Gorod. So what's next? Now we're going to go to the house to meet with Dr. Monty and Dr. Maxis. But this is something that has to be explored in Treyarch's next game in order to really gain answers to what the hell Monty is and what his purpose serves in the zombies timeline. Because it is kind of lazy to say that anything that's unexplained or somewhat confusing or a plot hole is just because of Dr. Monty. You know, the pickups, the wall weapons, buildables. We can't just use that excuse every single time. You know, we have a plot hole in this universe or a fracture in this timeline. We can't just use Monty as an excuse for that every single time. Or say that, okay, this exists because of Monty, this didn't happen because of Monty. Give some depth to it. Don't be lazy. Don't have lazy writers on your team who want to write in a very simple character just to explain all the fidelities of the zombies timeline. You know, do something interesting. I think that Treyarch listened to us at the end of DLC 4 and will probably make that change with their next game. We just have to wait and see. But now moving on to, in my opinion, the anticlimactic ending of Call of Duty Zombies, within Black Ops 3, of course, known as Revelations.
Got what it takes? Bring it!
When victory is mine, I will bathe in your blood.
Really should have re-upped when I had the chance. Time to send him packing with what I'm packing.
Okay, Nikolai, Dempsey, Takeo, I'm only talking to you right now. Richtofen, he can't hear me. See, he's probably off doing his own thing right now anyway. No change there, I suppose. The good news is, you're nearly done. It'll soon be time to come to the house. But this plan, this big plan, a lot of it's been riding on Richtofen. Before he caught up with you guys, he spent years traveling, searching out just the right versions of you. The ones who held the key to closing off the other dimensions. I think you know by now exactly what that entails. Point is, he's kind of surplus to requirements these days. He's been in the house for ages, but don't tell him. Anyway, it all makes sense when you get here. You'll see. Honestly, it's going to be fine. Oh, shit. I completely forgot to introduce myself. Oh, sorry. I'm Dr. Monty. Hello. So nice to see you all.
So without going too in-depth with the actual Easter egg steps on the map, this is number 15, the final Easter egg that Treyarch released along with Call of Duty Black Ops 3. The main quest on this map is already very underwhelming, while the map itself is pretty interesting in terms of its design. It's a combination or a compilation of all the old zombie maps that we know and love. Not all of them, but a majority of them that featured the Ultimates crew back in the Black Ops 1 days. And it's a pretty interesting map. It really is. It flows very well. Something about it just feels natural. The atmosphere is beautiful. The giant Apopkin blue sun is great. We get the return of a Shadow Man here on this map as the boss. And we don't get too much storyline. You know, it's supposed to be Revelations. And again, I'll never ever say this is the end of zombies, and you guys are all going to see that when Treyarch reveals their next game and has zombies again, with the same story, just moving forward, a different loop or a different timeline, different chapter, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Zombies will always continue as long as Call of Duty is under Activision's belt. And with that being said, Treyarch will of course want to answer more questions and expand the storyline in ways that it hasn't before. So the map itself, Revelations, is essentially what Zombies Chronicles ended up being, which is a remaster of a lot of the fan favorite maps, featuring a little bit of new content, not too much. We have some returning weapons. We have the Apopkin Servant, Wonder Weapon from Shadows. We have the beloved Thunder Gun that we haven't seen in a long time here on this map. So we got two Wonder Weapons. We have the return of the Ragnarok VG4 Specialist Weapon. I heard somewhere that there was a poll as to what Wonder Weapon we wanted to bring back, or Specialist Weapon I should say, for this map. And apparently the Ragnaroks were chosen. I don't remember that ever taking place, but I guess somewhere along the lines, Treyarch thought that it was the best idea to bring us the DG4s here in Revelations. But this is kind of a rant, but at the same time I still want to talk about this because the steps on this map do not make sense. You're essentially collecting bones of Sophia, putting them together, sucking up to the Apopkin Servant, and then sort of reviving the Sophia drone that we saw in Gorod so that she can then go and help us close the loop and defeat the Shadow Man. It sounds interesting, but it just plays off so awful. Steps that don't make sense. You have to get so much shit from the mystery box. The Apopkin, for the most part, you then have to upgrade it by shooting these blue tiles in the sky. So as we all thought there was an upgrade process for the Apopkin on Shadows, we were all wrong. It was actually an upgrade process here on Revelations, which is not too difficult. You just gotta shoot a couple of tiles out of the sky with the Apopkin. Then you can go to the Pack-a-Punch machine and insert it. You then have to, of course, shoot these tombstones at the spawn, and you just shoot it in a specific order that indicates the deaths of the 1.0 characters. So, once again, so much potential for this map, and I cannot stress this enough. I can lose my voice talking about this all day. So much potential. You could have done so much with this Easter egg, filled it with so much content. You could have featured a boss from every type of map here in Revelations to go against you at the same time. You could have a Panzer, a Streaker zombie, a Fire zombie, monkeys, all types of shit going at the same time. Instead, lazy ass developing for this map. And you know, honestly don't blame them. They probably had a lot on their plate trying to get DLC 5 done, Zombies Chronicles, at a decent time so they can also start development on their next Call of Duty. So they had a lot of content to do here at the Treyarch Studios. You know, they had a massive DLC 4, which was hyped like crazy. Then you had the rumored DLC 5 with remastered zombies maps. Then you also have development of their next title entirely, Call of Duty 2018, which could possibly be Black Ops 4. So put all that on their plate. Do you really think they're going to develop a massive and crazy and overwhelming DLC 4 Revelations, which with too much content, you know? And I didn't expect too much content. I just expected something that would have signified the end of zombies as we knew it. And I know it will never be the end unless Treyarch stops developing Call of Duty altogether, but at least something that gives us a lot of closure, much more closure than the ending we had on Origins. Because as I rambled on before about the ending of Origins, at first seemed like the biggest joke of all time, like the biggest meme of 2013. Like, are you fucking serious? This is the ending of zombies. This is how it all began. Is this really what zombies is, a children's game? And then we got to know in Black Ops 3 that that was just a different timeline with kids who were experiencing a different universe at that time. And we're essentially saving that universe with the events of Black Ops 3 by closing off all the evil loops so that this perfect world that Monty created with those children from the Origins cutscene can survive and can live a real life. So, while this has really deep meaning to it, it's just, it doesn't come off well to the community when you first see it. So that's why I kind of think the Revelations cutscene is similar to the Origins ending cutscene. Maybe, just maybe, there's going to be a lot of meaning behind what we saw at the end in Treyarch's next game. And we're gonna say, oh shit, no way, we didn't look at we didn't look at it that way when we first saw it, because that's the way that we interpreted Origins. We're like, what the fuck was that? Are you serious? A children's game? Really? None of it was real? We did it all for nothing? Just for the sake of Samantha having her turn or Eddie having her turn? Are you serious? And then, you know, we get to Black Ops 2, we're like, holy fuck, all this makes sense, all this has meaning, and we're gonna see that meaning throughout the DLC season of Black Ops 3. So, you know, I got relieved when we kind of got that clarification about the Origins ending cutscene. And we even found out in Revelations that the Origins ending cutscene takes place right after we defeat Nikolai 1.0 and Gorod Krovi. So that takes place simultaneously, which to me is really interesting to know. So along with that, we have some other radios here on Revelations. You know, radios from the crew back on Call of the Dead, a radio from the crew on 5, little things like that, which once again answers some questions. This map isn't completely useless, but it answers some questions about some of the old crews we saw in the old days, and we get to find out that, okay, almost everybody died in the 5 crew at the Pentagon, and about everybody died except Sarah Gellar on Call of the Dead. So again, you get a little bit of clarification with that, and maybe hints of their return in the future, but it didn't answer what we wanted it to answer. So you could blame the community for hyping this map up to the point where it was going to end everything, be the god of all zombie maps, the best map ever made, answer every question. Maybe that's what our problem is as a community. We hype up things way too much and we get disappointed in the very end, when what we should be doing is just letting us flow with Treyarch's flow, you know, just letting Treyarch do their thing and see what they have to offer and be patient with them, because they've proven that in the past. You know, we were super impatient with the ending of Origins, but you know, when we got Black Ops 2, we're like, oh shit, we're sorry, you know, now we understand what that really meant. And with Revelations, we're like, oh fuck, we already understood that, but now we know that it took place during Gorod Krovi. That means a lot. And YouTubers like Mr. Roth Waffles and COD Zombies HQ and many other YouTubers also got on with that bandwagon. Like, holy fuck, you know, give Treyarch some patience, you know, and or have patience with Treyarch, and you get the answers that you wanted, and the answers that we've all been begging for. So even though it takes a little bit of time, you know, we'll still get the answers eventually. But with a map like Revelations, they have a lot to make up for, and I think DLC 5 really helped out with that. As I said earlier, with the release of Zombies Chronicles, they kind of gained some trust back that they are still busy at work, they care about our community, and they are listening to what we are saying. So with doing so, they also put Dr. Monty radios on each of the remastered maps to kind of give some clarification about who Monty is and how he knows everything that's happened in the Black Ops 1/Black Ops 2 days, which to me is great, and also hints at the idea that they're going to expand on Dr. Monty's character in their next game, because in this map they really didn't expand shit. You know, we got some more storyline with Dr. Monty versus the Shadow Man, the Apothicans versus the Keepers, their purpose, little things like that. We had the smallest side quests here on the map. You had a little chalk table which you can do, you know, a little chalk side Easter egg in which you can have a trading table for weapons, which to me is pretty useful. You can also make a Tommy gun wall buy out of chalk, and that's of course a Tommy gun from Out of the Dead, which to me is pretty cool. That's a fun side quest. But to be the only side quest on this map, along with the hats of course, it's just unacceptable. You really have nothing to focus on for this map. When you make tutorials for a new zombie map, what is there to cover on this map other than the shield? You have the fucking perk locations, some traps, you know, how to do the hats, and your chalk guide. You know, what else is there to cover on this map? I only uploaded, I believe, 3 tutorials for Revelations. What is there to do? Compared to a map like Gorod Krovi, where you have so much to cover, and almost too much to cover, to where you get overwhelmed with how much content you have to make for the new zombie map. What does this map have to offer? Not that much, when there is so much potential for the amount of bosses, buildables, wonder weapons, the complexity of the mystery box with different weapons at each location. Totally cool ideas, which people on the PC brought to life in their own custom maps, which is pretty funny. So it's like Treyarch almost got beat at their own game in a way. You had people who looked at the concept behind Revelations, like, holy fuck, that's a great idea, but let me just do it better. Put more area of each map to the whole map entirely. Do more with it. And I think Treyarch could have done that if not for the release of DLC 5. That's going to be my opinion to this day. But, you know, I am very grateful for the release of DLC 5. It kept me going throughout Infinite Warfare's shitty-ass season. I never played the game past DLC 1. I just couldn't take it. So Treyarch kept me going for a whole nother year, and I'm grateful for that, leading up to the release of Call of Duty World War II tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that, and it's just been an honor making this video here for you guys. This has been dkdynamite, and I spent about 2 months putting this video together, I have about 2 years worth of footage here into this video as well. Easter eggs of every single Treyarch Zombies map, completion of each one with the achievement. I want to go through each Easter egg, sort of make up for the time that I lost, because I didn't really get to cover any of the Easter eggs during the Black Ops 3 season. I didn't really make tutorials for them, or even for Black Ops 1 and 2, so I kind of put them all together in one video, talk about each one, my opinion of each step, and just put that all together for you guys for a nice, massive 2-hour / movie type of video. And I don't expect you to watch it all the way through in one take, but you know, sporadically watch little bits and pieces of it here and there, or share it with your friends who are interested in watching the whole thing with every Treyarch Zombies Easter egg. But in terms of revelations, to really close out this video, I just think that the Easter egg itself was very underwhelming and wasn't satisfying in any way. The boss fight was exactly the same as the Shadows of Evil boss fight, minus a couple of different things. You gotta take the summoning key, place it in a little pot, charge it up with souls, kill a Panzer and a Margwa, and boom, you're gonna face a Shadow Man in the same way you did on Shadows, breaking his force field by throwing the summoning key at Sophia and shooting him into the mouth of that giant apothecary beast, and boom, hit square or X on the Chronorium, and you've now killed the Shadow Man himself, who was unfortunately freed by Dr. Maxis in the intro cutscene of this map. So Monty somehow had no idea that Shadow Man was in the summoning key when Richtofen brought it to Maxis at the beginning, and either he was lying about that or he wanted that to happen. Who fucking knows? We'll just find out in the next game. But I do promise you guys, this underwhelming and just unsatisfying cutscene that we had at the end of Revelations will hopefully be explained in their next game. Maybe this was taking place in a different timeline, or maybe this was, who fucking knows? I don't even have an idea of what it could be, because it's so underwhelming compared to the Origins ending cutscene, which was like, okay, well, there's theories about this, theories about that. What kind of theories can we make about the Revelations ending cutscene? You know, he essentially puts us back into the same loop we already started, going back as Primus with the ancient stabs, and boom, cycle repeats, starting again with Origins, going all the way into Black Ops 3, while on the side, the events of Black Ops 1 and 2 also occur, which cause all the fractures and damage to the entire universe as we know it. So all we know is the end of Revelations is essentially confirming the idea of this loop that we're in, and we as Primus can't break it. We've been through this loop before, and that's clear as of right now, and hopefully in the next game we can break that cycle either with a different crew or with Primus once again. We'll just have to wait and see. But what we do know is that within Revelations we're not going to be able to break the cycle. There is no super Easter egg as we all expected there to be, and even though Infinity Ward did a director's cut super Easter egg for Infinite Warfare, that never meant that Treyarch ever intended to do that, and they even confirmed that on Zombros. You know, Blundell himself said it was never their intention to create a super Easter egg for Black Ops 3 Zombies. It was thought about maybe for a little bit, but they just didn't have time to devote to such a massive idea. Doing every Easter egg on every Black Ops 3 Zombies map grants you with a nice new calling card called Primus Rules and the RK5 starting pistol at the beginning of every match of Zombies that you play, along with a fully loaded MR6. So, while it's not the best reward in the world compared to the director's cut, it still doesn't mean that you have to bash Treyarch out for that. That just wasn't their intention, but a super Easter egg should not ever switch your entire opinion of a Zombies game mode just because of that one feature. You know, I certainly believe Treyarch is saving the big surprises and super Easter eggs for their next game, which is why they probably didn't add in a couple of cool things in Revelations afterwards. Blundell himself did say Revelations would last 18 months. What does the community think? Oh, super Easter egg, oh, new steps are going to be added, new shit, they're going to add on to it every couple of months. Nope, it just meant that they had something else up their sleeve, which was DLC 5 Zombies Chronicles, that I already covered here on my channel. And along with that, Blundell himself also said that Model of the Dead has a purpose in the future with the Zombies community. So you can already assume that it's going to be like a giant type DLC bonus map for Black Ops 4, whatever their game is going to be. But in all, I think Revelations was a very underwhelming experience and not the best end to Call of Duty Zombies, but still did satisfy us in some way, shape, and form, either with the Wonder Weapons feature or the flow of the map, whatever pleases you guys here in the Zombies community. But thanks so much for watching. It's been an honor making this video for you guys, and stay tuned in for some massive tutorials for World War II Zombies, along with Treyarch's next game, which I promise to actually upload some Easter egg tutorial guides here for you guys on my channel. I'm going to be switching up the way I upload DLC coverage for World War II and Treyarch's next game as well. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. Feel free to drop your comments down below in the comments section. Like this video, check out the description if you want to jump to a certain map and a certain Easter egg. But there you have it, and peace.
feel the warmth of the tentacle embrace. Summoning key. I hope I am worthy to wield its uncertain powers.
So, Nikolai, Dempsey, Takil, I'm talking to you now.
By your evil! All will succumb to the creature's tenacious tentacles. You will not survive this conflict. To this moment, destiny is not on your side. It is on ours.
But that Dracon put in work, bro. I was sniping the fuck out of it.
It's too easy, bro. This ain't even a boss fight.
It's really not a boss fight, bro. Damn, Mike, what happened to your hand?
It's just like uproot.
Mike, I just seen you on Snapchat. What happened to your hand?
Yeah.
Sophia.
Marxus.
You know what we must do, my dear.
Yes, my love.
We will do it together. As one we are. Now, and forever.